Hello and welcome to the Nerds at Large Spoilercast for Persona 5. I'm one of your hosts, Darby Hallman.
I'm special guest Jacob Hamill.
Special guest Jacob Hamill, the Persona expert. There's nothing he doesn't know about Persona. Absolutely nothing that he doesn't know.
Absolutely everything.
Everything there is to know.
Even the old games.
Yeah, every single one of them.
No, I don't. But
has anyone played the first Persona? Like I hear people talk. The earliest I hear people talk about is the two Persona 2 games. That's like the earliest I hear anyone say have experience.
People have. Persona 1 is pretty famous because it was the first SMT game to get localized in the United States.
Oh, the very first, like none of the other ones?
Yeah, none of the other ones.
Okay.
So it's just called Revelations Persona, and it got a really horrible localization to where like they made one character African American. They changed all the names.
They like changed the character.
Yeah.
Being African.
They put like a filter on him.
Yikes!
On his like little character profile.
They just shaded in, like just fill.
I mean, it was straight up like that scene from Pokemon where Brock is like, "These are tasty donuts," and they're clearly not. They're clearly like onigiri.
Yeah,
it's that level of like '90s localization.
Yikes! Well, yeah, this kind of shows like this is where like so. To let you know where we stand, Jacob has at least played 3, 4, and 5 of Persona. And have you played any of the two?
Yeah, I played Persona 2 Innocent Sin, which Persona 2 is a duology. That's the first game.
Right.
And then I played a little bit of some of the other SMT games, Shin Megami Tensei, which is the father series to Persona.
Right.
Played a little bit of Digital Devil Saga and SMT Nocturne, but I've never beaten them.
Okay. And Persona 5. That's it. Like, I have a complete newcomer to it.
Popped your Persona cherry.
Yep. We have kind of the two different perspectives here, which is very interesting, like, seeing people talk about, like, oh, well, you know, this was the same as it's always been. I'm like, I don't know. It was all new to me.
We'll get into it, but it's definitely a series where I think the first game you play, it leaves the strongest impact.
Yeah, and I think it's probably going to be very similar to Final Fantasy to me. Final Fantasy 7 was the first one I played, and that's the one that has like a special place in my heart. Even though I realize some of the other ones might be better, it's like, you know, you definitely have that. So yeah, if you haven't watched one of these, we're probably going to, with a lot of Spoilercast, we go with spoiler-free stuff at the beginning. Probably just going to skip through that. There's so much to talk about. And honestly, if you listen to our podcast, I've talked about Persona. Spoiler-free impressions for so long. So, I mean, just on the surface level, I do think this is an incredible JRPG that kind of like has made me more excited about the JRPG genre than I've been in a long time. Not that it's been bad, but I feel like this is like a modern,
it's like, fresh.
Yeah, it kind of aged with me. I feel like this is the perfect game that I can appreciate now that I maybe wouldn't have appreciated when I was younger playing even Final Fantasy and other games. Like, I feel like it does a lot of things super, super well.
Yeah, I think it also helps because Persona has a very unique setup to it where you have the day-by-day calendar system and the visual novel elements mixed in with going through dungeons and fighting bosses.
This game is basically half visual novel, which is, especially for someone like me who doesn't play visual novels, it was kind of like everything was new. Everything on all cylinders was new. So from this point on, we're going to be full spoilers are out there. They could happen. So if you haven't played Persona 5, run away and go play it because it's really good. It's super, super good. All right, Jacob.
Let's do it.
So where do we begin with Persona 5? With my playtime, I don't know how accurate it is because I'm sure I left it on for some time, but like I was at an hour and 25 or 125
That's
hours.
Pretty long. Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm slow with a lot of games I play, and I stop and like listen to everything. So that's part of the problem. But
yeah, I think I was around 110, and that was definitely leaving it idle for a while.
Which I definitely did that. But so I was probably somewhere around, the battle was probably, close to that. If not, probably like the earliest would be like hour or 120 or something. I was close,
Yeah.
Which is a long time. But usually when a game is that long, I have a lot more complaints about pacing and a lot more complaints about like, well, I think this could have been shorter, this could have been taken out, this could have been padded. But like in a weird way with Persona, even with how big it is, I kind of don't want it to be any shorter.
Mm-hmm. It feels like you don't have enough time already, and these are very, very long games.
And I definitely, you'll know when we like start talking about it, I did not get to all that many confidants. Like I did not max out all that many of them, despite having all that amount of time, because especially early on, I didn't know what I was doing exactly with this. So I was just talking to people as they came up, and then eventually once I decided to get more serious about it, it was kind of too late to get to all of them. But I got a few,
Yeah, those games definitely have a sense of replayability to them when it comes to the confidants. It's borderline impossible to do all of them on your first playthrough.
I can imagine, yeah.
There are guides out there, but honestly, that following one of those guides just sucks the fun out of the game.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because part of it's like, oh, who do I hang out with today? Yusuke or Makoto, and then, but where if you're following like a guide, it's like, okay, on this day, I got to go do this one confidant, and then I'm not going to see them for 2 months because it's not optimal.
Yeah, and it's going to tell you, like, yeah, you have to do this. It's basically like you're just following this agenda. It's like, no matter what you want to do, you have to do this if you want to. And, like, I am the type of person that can, with systems like this, get to obsessing over it, like, trying to get the most out of it. So I, like, kind of forced myself playing Persona 5 to just be like, hey, just do what you want. Like, just... I haven't experienced this activity yet. I'm going to go try that. I haven't done this. I feel like talking to this person. I'm going to go do that. And I kind of just didn't overthink it for the most part. Like, towards the end, I started being like, okay, well, I'm at, like, rank 7 with these two people. Finish that off. Let's focus on them some when maybe I wouldn't have otherwise. But for the most part, I was pretty casual with it. Yeah. Just going through. And I think that's the way to play, especially for the first time. And since you get all your personas and stuff, do you get your items back too?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Can't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, all your social stats carry over. Your money definitely does, and your compendium.
Big deal. Big deal. Yeah. There was definitely multiple times in the game where it's like I didn't have enough money to do things.
Oh, and I think all the items that you get when you complete a confidant, those carry over, so you can summon the special one that you get.
Oh, like right away?
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I was wondering what those items were really for because you were getting them right at the end of the game, and I was like,
I'm pretty sure that's what they were used for, but it's been a while. The last time I played this game was in 2017.
Right.
So I'm a little hazy on a few details.
Yeah, we're pretty late with this spoiler cast.
Well, weirdly enough, it is kind of topical again because Persona 5R, whatever that could be, we don't know.
It is,
is going to be talked about in March or April.
I think they said March, but
so.
They said R. I don't know if R is the one thing or R is just everything, but they said Persona 5 projects, plural.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That could mean P5 Arena.
Yeah.
And then maybe golden type thing. Everyone keeps saying Crimson, but which I think would be cool. Persona 5 Crimson, but it's probably going to be R. I don't know.
Yeah, remix. But we're going to get on the full-on spoiler discussion. You want to start at the end?
We can backwards? We can start at the end and go backwards. All right. Well, if we're starting at the very, very end, we're actually going to be starting in probably my biggest criticism of the whole game.
Okay.
The very end, like the third act in general, I think was insanely strong. Like as a whole, that was when I was the most like into this game, glued to the TV. I mean, like this is mostly starting at the prosecutor Sai's palace.
Okay. Yeah.
The casino palace. It was mostly like then onwards it was like I am locked in. I'm so totally glued to this. Where it kind of got a little off the rails to me was once we started getting to the god stuff. Once the Igor reveal, after that point it kind of started feeling like Persona 5 the whole time felt like this cool interesting concept that takes kind of the fantastical JRPG stuff that you're used to seeing and puts it into the real world. So it's like all these crazy things are happening, but you're also seeing the repercussions of in the real world of people who don't know what's going on. They just have the effects of it. And I thought that was like a really cool dichotomy.
Yeah.
But then at the end, I kind of just felt like that was tossed out the window, and it's like, okay, now you're just fighting a god, and it's like these giant things in the sky, and the whole thing with like he's a god who's thinks that humanity doesn't deserve to exist because they're bad. That just feels like a very tired plot. Well, and I started to lose it at the end, basically. Not that it was horrible, it just didn't feel as unique.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but that is every Persona game.
That's what I've heard.
It's always some secret deity who wants to destroy or punish humanity for some reason or another, and it's up to the the party to basically prove that they are wrong.
Right. And this is another interesting thing, just because I don't know any of this. I didn't really know exactly that was coming. I mean, I kind of figured, like, and I get it, like, the whole game was escalating. You go from, like, gym teacher to Yakuza boss to...
president,
CEO, and then to, it just keeps like, escalating more and more and ending in a god. I guess it kind of makes sense. But it also just felt like that whole section was a little rushed. It just got to... Like, everyone gets in the Velvet Room, and they're explaining what's happening, and it's just, like, 2 lines of dialogue, and then Ryuji and everyone's like, okay, it's fine. I guess we're fighting a god. Let's go. It's like...
Yeah. That is honestly probably the weakest part of the game for me, too. Just because I've played Persona 3 and 4, and those games also have a similar structure to it. And I felt that their final ramp-up to a god boss was better done. And again, like the third time, it was like, okay, I know this is coming. I felt like the game would have been better had they maybe not done that. Maybe if like Shido was, the final boss.
Yeah,
it would have been better.
And that's whenever I was talking to you before, I had just beat Shido. I didn't realize just how much game I had left after that. I thought that we were...
I was like, it's going to be a lot. Maybe you stay up all night. You might be able to beat it.
Yeah, it took me like 2 or 3 more sittings. I didn't realize that I basically had a whole nother palace... kind of, and then I guess a boss rush. I wouldn't consider that last one like a palace, but yeah, so I expected Shido, but I did kind of like that twist. We're going to be jumping around a lot, but I did kind of like that you take Shido down and it feels like, okay, we took down the big bad, but then the next scene when Shido's other people who are around him are saying like, oh god, he had a change of heart, all of our secrets are going to come out. We have to do something about that. And I like that because it was like, of course they're not just going to like lay down and let this guy expose this horrible plot that goes everywhere. Of course they're going to try to save their own ass and like keep him away from the media and everything. And like, I kind of, even though it felt like the game was going to end there and I was like kind of like ready for it to end story-wise, and I don't necessarily love where they went afterwards, I do like that kind of twist of like, no, it's not over, like it's not as easy as just taking out Shido.
3 does the whole kind of final build up I think the best because it lays it out very clearly that like, hey, something bad is happening, get ready. And the final boss itself I felt was very, very cinematic, and the theme song for Persona 3, that final boss, was also perfect because it is a remix of that Velvet Room theme.
Okay.
So very well done. With Persona 5, I think I just would have liked it better had it been a more human, like, final boss, final bad guy, like Shido.
Right.
And with Persona 5, even though I think the overall plot to it is probably the weakest of the 3 kind of Persona games in this style, I like the theme of rebelling and the corrupt society, and like especially in a Japanese context where it's very much like fit into this hole that society has carved out for you, and don't stick out, and don't call attention to things that you think are wrong.
And I definitely I think you and multiple other people have said, obviously I don't have context for Persona 4, but from what I've heard of Persona 4, it's a lot more of like, everyone loves you and everything's kind of like good and happy, even though they shouldn't be at times, but it's just kind of like overwhelmingly positive. I do like that in Persona 5, you have that rise and fall. At the peak of their popularity, you see those like little messages and everything's positive all the time. You're at like 99% of whatever question they're asking on like the fan site and everything's good. But that crash is hard. And then like pretty much the rest of the game, it's like, no one believes in you. Everyone wants you dead, basically. And it's like, it was cool to see their optimism in the face of that.
I agree.
Cool. And even they're kind of like, I really liked when they started getting in discussions like, have we been doing the wrong thing this whole time?
That's what I like.
We're like taking people's agency away from them. Is this wrong? Is this right?
It's like, we are technically doing a good thing, but the way that we are doing it is pretty messed up.
Right.
And that's a thing that I liked a lot.
I love that theme of it. And that was one of the many ways, I feel like I'm going to say this a lot, and I'm sure other people say it too, but this reminds me so much of Death Note. Like, so much of Death Note. I mean, part of it is just the fact that it's in, like, Tokyo and all this other things. And because Death Note, for as cheesy and like kind of emo 2008 as it is,
very of the times.
Yeah, it doesn't age well like visually looking at the characters, but I do think for the most part, from a writing perspective, that's like one of my favorite stories, just the way that it was done and the way the intrigue went. And this kind of like presented a lot of the same questions of like, you're doing things, you're changing people. Obviously in Death Note he was killing people, it was a little bit different, but in this of the, you have good intentions, but is this wrong? Is this, we're taking away agency from people? And that kind of like, I enjoyed that question a whole lot.
Yeah.
And I like that they weren't always in the same consensus with everyone. There was those text message conversations were also some of my favorite moments in the game, was just seeing.
They were really good.
Yeah. Everyone kind of evolved of, going through, oh God, what are we going to do?
Yeah. Like they weren't full do-gooders, right. the Phantom Thieves, like the entire time.
Right.
And I felt like that really tied in as well with the whole thief angle that they were going, that, yeah, these are romantic kind of Robin Hood-esque characters who are doing good for society, but maybe like the methods that they are using is not necessarily
is questionable. Yeah. And the whole theme of kind of like sticking to your morals and sticking to your beliefs, even in the face of like everything collapsing around you.
Yeah.
and people not believing in them and everything. And that's one of the reasons why I love Ryuji.
Yeah.
So much. Like, and I kind of didn't expect to like him as much as I did, but like just as it went, he was a lovable dude, and he was just someone like, he was the one that just I admired, that even when everyone else doubted things, he was always just
for real.
For real?
Yeah. All right, so let's back it up to Shido and his whole angle, and then maybe like that final kind of palace, besides Mementos.
Yeah.
What'd you think of that
cruise ship?
Yeah, the cruise ship of just the elite kind of just being on the ship around like a destroyed.
Yeah,
Tokyo City.
I mean, it's something I like throughout all of this game, but I definitely love the creative ways they go about representing people's thoughts and everything, and just how it goes in there, and you see the skyscrapers coming out of the ocean. It was like, yeah, that was really cool. That was a cool way of showing this. And I was kind of worried about going into Shido because I thought Sai was such a good character, and we'll get to it, that Akechi reveal was the best part of the game. Like, definitively. So I was a little worried going into Shido. I was like, he kind of just seems like generic final boss type dude. I was a little worried about that, but I think that once you got in there and having you taking down all the different politicians and it cutting to him talking to them, it like kind of had this, it was almost more of like, it was Shido's palace, but it kind of felt like you're against this entire system. You're against this whole like political web that he has going on, that I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. What is interesting is that this game came out in 2017, so a lot of Americans made comparisons of Shido to Donald Trump. Which is not entirely, I think, like a false equation, but again, this game was made in Japan, and so actually Shido is more of an analog to their prime minister and the current political climate in Japan, because Japan, a lot of people don't realize it is a democratic country, but it's pretty much a one-party state. The Conservative Party in Japan has pretty much held power the entire time since post World War II.
Wow.
And it's really bad, honestly. Like, there's a lot of censorship and kind of cult of personality around Prime Minister Abe, and so this game is kind of making a statement about their political issues in regards to that, and people just kind of going with the flow, or feeling that the whole swerve lately of the past 5-10 years in Japan to a very dangerous kind of nationalism and conservatism, especially
seems to be happening in a lot of places.
Yeah. So I think it's a good game because it shows kind of, I think, other audiences around the world that these trends are universal.
Right. It's not just, I mean, it's maybe troubling that like that wasn't even meant for America.
Yeah.
But it still,
yeah,
but people plays in America.
We connected so strongly to that idea. But the developers were like, oh no, that was not our intention at all. We're talking about our problems right here at home.
But That's apparently a problem all over the place.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I'm guessing that. I mean, like maybe that goes into the whole thing when they were constantly, your group was constantly saying like, how can these people support him? We know all these horrible things they're doing. But then also you had whenever you took him down, or I guess it was around then when you changed his heart, and they were saying like, yeah, why is the media saying nothing about this?
Exactly.
It's like there's nothing, like no one even knows. That kind of helpless feeling, like you did all of this, and then it's like, well, if the people don't know, then we're screwed.
Yeah. And that final boss where you fight Cheeto,
shirtless,
is so amazing.
Those muscles.
He becomes Senator Armstrong from Metal Gear Rising. Just cognitive nanomachines.
Yeah, it's like the cage around his like,
where he just like bursts out and just becomes like roided up politician, which I think is my favorite final boss in games.
It was pretty cool.
Fighting a buff politician
while Rivers in the Desert's playing.
Yeah,
that song is so good.
Fantastic.
God, that song's so good.
And even like his original costume before he throws it off, which is a reference to Char from Gundam.
Okay. And he was like the weird pyramid thing, or he was riding something, and then he was the pyramid thing, and then it went into like him actually. But
yeah, I mean when he had like the cape and like the spiky helmet.
Right.
Yeah. Very awesome boss.
Yeah. No, it was definitely like, we are going full anime, and I'm here for it. I'm like, no, I'm not saying anything bad about it. I was there for it. But I love he has that like Dragon Ball Z-esque expression on his face, and these like gigantic muscles.
I don't know why, but just fighting a roided up politician is the funniest thing to me.
It was pretty good.
Please more. Give me more. Give me more bosses like that. And then you mentioned that Akechi's reveal, which we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Was your favorite, I guess, twist?
I think so, because it was just, I mean, that was about, I feel like that whole section, they even give you like 2 saves in there. I feel like that was like an hour long, but I was like, I was just sitting there going, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. For me, it was the Igor twist.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about this because I've been reading up on other people, and obviously I think this twist means a lot more to other people who
definitely
who play the other Persona games, because something that obviously I wouldn't have even caught is people said that when they came into this game, they're like, Igor's voice actor is different. That's weird. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then later on, it's like, oh shit, that's why.
Yeah. So the Japanese voice actor for Igor, who's been doing it since, the early 90s or the mid 90s with the first game.
He passed away.
And of course, Japanese games have very strong feelings toward voice actors in games. So if a voice actor dies or retires, they will probably retire the character. And so, people weren't really sure how that was going to play out. And then I think in the American version, it was like, hey, well, we got a different voice actor than the previous one, maybe as a sign of respect, perhaps, to the old.
Yeah, you keep talking. I just realized I forgot to plug up my laptop, so I should probably do that so it doesn't die. But I am listening to you.
Yeah. So anyway, so like there's a different voice actor, and his voice in Persona 5 is very different than the previous ones, where you heard him at the very end. It's more like a high pitched, welcome to the Velvet Room, that sort of thing. Where here it's very deep and gravelly. And it's like, okay, I understand that you wanted a different direction because the Japanese voice actor passed away, but this is like a very big 180 from his previous intonation, and I just kind of rolled with it, and I was not expecting that. That's because that is not the real Igor.
Right.
It is actually Yadabada. The bad guy, basically.
Right.
God, pretty much. Bad God. Which, to clarify on that, Yaldabaoth is from Gnostic tradition, which is a kind of a cult branch of Christianity. And pretty much that is, I want to say he is like the kind of, he is a component of God, but kind of the more punishing, like the kind of the Old Testament style God. Okay. It's been a while since I read this, so I'm probably forgetting some stuff. But and then the final persona that you summon, your Satan Yell, is not necessarily Satan, but more of like the right hand, like ultimate, like counterpoint to that version of God. It's very confusing. It's really interesting if you want to look into that Gnosticism. But that was kind of the whole play on that dynamic.
I was wondering if that had something to do with Satan, because I did hear him just yell it out, and I was like,
it's not exactly this is God and this is Satan. Right. It's a little more complicated than that, and a little more spiritual and interesting, I think.
Yeah, but so you did not see that coming.
No,
you never saw it coming. The
I
Igor.
did not. That just blew my mind because I would not have expected that.
Yeah, that is a cool. That is a very cool note for. I mean, could you say, of course, that all these personas, they kind of, in the end, get to a very similar point. But at least it sounds like that was a cool way of. Okay, all you Persona fans think you know what's about to happen. Nope.
Yeah, like Igor's your friend. Like, you would never expect him to, be, locked away and replaced
to
by,
order you to order you them like you dead, and then rise up. Like whenever he rose up and he's like had the red eyes, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. So that was a really good, I think, twist for longtime fans of the series.
Yeah, and to be clear, I thought that was fine. It was just kind of like the final battle and stuff, and it was like after that, it got a little too cheesy for me when it got to the point where like everyone's like cheering for you, but underneath, it just like at times like that started to feel like okay, this is just it's a little too cheesy for me at this point. But
I mean, again, all the games had the whole theme of there's some deity who's pulling the strings behind the scenes. But I thought it was really interesting that it was Igor actually in disguise.
Yeah, which is very, very cool. Yeah, for me it was just like whenever the real Igor comes up, I was like, oh, your voices.
Very
very different.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting going back, I think, for you to Persona 4 and Persona 3. Yeah. I actually remember showing Persona 4 to a friend of mine, like back in high school or whatever, and when Igor first came up, he was like, oh, he must be the bad guy. In Persona 4, which he's not. He's your friend.
Yeah, but he would have been correct in this one.
Yeah, which is I think, really funny.
And I think people have said that like in other games, the Velvet Room isn't as harsh. Like in this one, you're a prisoner behind bars, but in the other ones, you're more of a guest.
Yeah, it changes every game. In the first two, Persona 1 and Persona 2, they're just rooms. There's actually more characters in the rooms as well. There's like a guy with a blindfold who plays the piano. Really interesting. In Persona 3, it's an elevator constantly moving up, which is very symbolic of the themes of the game. And you're kind of in Persona 3, the dungeon is called Tartarus, and so it's like Mementos in a lot of ways.
I've heard people say it's terrible.
It's a little samey.
Yeah.
The cool part about it, I guess, with the music is that every time you get to like a new section, it adds another layer on top of the theme.
That would be cool.
So that is interesting.
Something would have been better. We'll get some Mementos, but that's my other least favorite part of the game. Like I want to praise this game more than I say against it because I love it, but Mementos wasn't great. But
so I think the elevator is symbolic of you constantly moving up the tower of Tartarus.
Right.
And Persona 4 is a limo for some reason, like this really cushy limo.
That's cool.
With like drinks on the sides and.
I'd ride in a limo with Igor.
Yeah, exactly. And in 5, it is the prison.
Yeah,
which is symbolic of the whole.
Well, especially in hindsight, that's probably like, ooh, maybe like this prison landscape is a lot worse than like the limo and the tower and all of that. Like maybe like that shows more of like. In hindsight, when you realize it's not the real Igor, this is
it is not a friendly place. But it makes sense, I think, symbolically with the whole, you're a thief. Your character themselves has been framed for a crime that they didn't really commit. Yeah, and just kind of being and as well as being chained down by the expectations of society.
I definitely I figured something was coming with Igor, and they're talking about your rehabilitation and this game and all this other stuff. I knew something was going to happen, but I didn't think about it that much, and I definitely wasn't predicting that.
We're going to start diving into, I think, more of the philosophical, I guess, concepts, the tarot and the Carl Jung psychology that is present in these games.
We have a book over there about.
Yeah, we do. Igor is... He's helping the main character kind of become their quote true selves. Have a awakening sort of experience. And so him talking about rehabilitation is not, if you are familiar with the history of the games and the previous ones, the whole term rehabilitation would not necessarily be sinister, I guess. It's more just talking about how, in Persona 4, it's you're reaching out to the truth. You're going to discover, the truth to what's going on, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I know the vague stuff, but yeah.
And the whole journey is as well represented by the tarot cards, which you see throughout the game, represented by different characters.
Right.
But the cards themselves, the Fool all the way to the World, they tell a tale of a character, the Fool, kind of achieving enlightenment and their understanding of their place and their purpose in the world. And that's kind of the also the arc that the main character goes on in each Persona game.
Yeah, so are all these, because I don't know much about like tarot cards or any of that, are these characters pretty like tied to the concept of their thing of the like star and priestess and emperor and all that?
Yeah, they're all represented by what those cards represent.
Yeah.
And again, they have meaning individually, and they also have meaning in the context of the other cards. Both in like a single line and also in like a 3-layer line, because it's like the cards that is below and above it also kind of reference each other. Like Judgment is tied to the Death card, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
It's really complicated, and tarot's been around for centuries.
Yeah.
So it's kind of built meaning on top of itself.
From a creative standpoint, it's interesting to make all these characters and have them tied to these individual cards and stories and stuff. I mean, like, it's a lot to do. It's a lot and it's cool that there's an extra layer on there.
Yeah. Like, for example, the Magician, which is Ryuji, is Ryuji. Morgana is kind of immaturity and but also energy and youthfulness.
Okay.
So being young and dumb, but also having passion and drive.
Right. Okay.
The Priestess is about kind of inner reflection, especially in a feminine sort of way. Kind of finding, I want to say, your true purpose internally, and embracing.
Is that Makoto?
Yeah, it's Makoto and Yukiko in Persona 4.
Okay.
But yeah, each character kind of vaguely represents the themes that are present in those cards.
Well, that makes sense with Makoto, like trying to find out what she actually wants to do and everything. Yeah.
Which ties in, of course, to the whole high school setting as well, of characters kind of coming of age and trying to figure out what they want to do.
Yeah.
While they're in high school, that sort of thing.
That's why I definitely I like that they're high school kids, and they're very much high school kids, and I kind of like the immaturity of it all, but then they're also pulling heists and doing all these crazy things. I love the kind of dichotomy between the metaverse world and how they're all are there, and then you get done, you fight all these crazy monsters, and then you go have a normal school day and take a test.
Yeah, and it's also a reason that I want to say in like Japanese society, their second year in high school, which would be about your junior year in high school, is kind of seen as really the last true year of freedom of being a kid, and then after that, in your third year, you're preparing for high school, which is a lot harder to get into in Japan than it is in the United States. It's a lot more stressful. People are going to school 6 days a week and then going to study cram school on the 7th. And then you get into college, or you go into the workforce.
Right.
So it is definitely I think like the whole idea of the tarot journey does make a lot of sense in the context of your last year of, I guess, youth and freedom, growing up.
That you can do what you want.
Yeah.
That's interesting. There's like a whole nother layer on here. Like, I feel like an idiot. I don't know any of this.
And then there's the whole Carl Jung stuff with the persona and the shadow and the collective human unconsciousness. There's a lot to read about and dive into with this series and the concepts that it plays with. It's really rewarding, and I think it shows just how much that I think the creators of the series kind of did into those concepts.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, this game took a long time to make, right?
Yeah. And even the personas that you summon, like there are arcana they are associated with, like they play into those themes. Like the Emperor is about masculinity, manhood, and as well as kind of, I want to say, like ownership and like rulership. So a lot of the personas are Thor or Loki, not Loki, Odin, Zeus. Yeah, well, not Zeus, but you get the point.
Well, Loki, Odin, and Thor are definitely all there.
Yeah.
I know, because Goro just screams, Loki!
Yeah. But anyways, let's get into Akechi and his whole deal in this story.
Honestly, probably one of my favorite characters in this.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of people hate him.
I really liked him. And it's like, I can't exactly explain why, but, and again, like, for me, I'm not the best at, like, or I'm kind of off and on. Sometimes I can sniff out big plot things, and sometimes I can't. And, like, in this one, I just wasn't really trying. I was just like, let's just go for this story. And I just assumed, Akechi's on the front of the box. Akechi's in, like, all the things, like, there. Like, he's going to be a playable character. And I thought they were, like, presenting him so hard as against the Phantom Thieves, like, since, like, very early in the game. He's the person against your whole group, like, speaking out against you. So I thought, of course, we're going to be gearing towards the big thing is going to be he's the one that was spoken out against the Phantom Thieves all this time, and then events are going to lead him to join you, and that's going to be kind of his whole plot arc is becoming a member of the Phantom Thieves after, like, everything he said against you. So then whenever you get him in your party, I was like, okay, we're getting there. We're going towards that. And I used him for that whole palace, having no clue that was the only chance.
He's got a lot of good skills.
He was really good. I'm really glad I used him now. I'm glad he wasn't, like, in my back party, and I was like, oh, well, I used him the whole time. And I, like, again, maybe I'm an idiot, but I just thought, this is what we're going towards, and something's going to happen here, and then he's going to end up, like, joining your side fully.
Yeah.
And part of it is that I started this game in 2017 and then didn't play it at all in 2018 and then finished it in 2019.
So you had no recollection of someone betrayed you.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that, and I'm really glad I did. And actually, like, in hindsight, I feel like they maybe even shouldn't put that in there, because, like, I didn't know. I forgot that was even a thing, so that wasn't on my mind. And had it been on my mind, I maybe would have assumed something like this would happen. But so when we got to that twist, the whole twist in general, I want to talk about it. It was great, but I felt that when Akechi came in, just shoot you in that brutal scene where I did not expect him that to actually go through. I thought something was going to happen, and then he goes, bam, blood pours down.
Yeah,
he has this light Yagami face.
Yeah, so
light
hard.
Yagami.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, I expected him to be the one to betray everybody, but to the game's credit, they did do a good job of making it seem that Makoto might do that.
Yeah,
since you're in her sister's palace.
And she was showing signs of, like,
being a little flaky.
Yeah.
But I did not expect the whole thing after that where he tries to kill you.
Yeah.
Really, I think it was a really like, what the fuck moment when that happened. And then I appreciate after that the whole kind of slow breakdown of here's everything.
I really like how detailed they go into it. I feel like a lot of things would have been like, we'll just leave it for you to figure out or to go look online or something. But I like that they kind of use Sojiro as the vehicle for why they're explaining it so much, because he's like, so what happened?
Yeah, he's like, I don't know any of this.
Right.
Shadow World, what?
So this kid I took in is doing something crazy.
But yeah, I think some people have problems that, like, oh, well, why does your character conveniently forget these things? But it's the whole story. It's the whole idea that your character is drugged. You know, and they're talking about all this stuff.
It is a bit convenient, or whatever. But I feel it was done well enough.
Yeah.
And they gave, like, I feel like every time I, like, was at or almost every time, I'm about to ask you something, but that I might have just missed. But almost every time there was a place where I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense because of this. They explained it. They had some explanation, even if it wasn't the best. Like, the drugging thing is kind of like, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
It's not the best, but I'll buy it.
You just kind of buy into it for the sake of an entertaining story.
Right. Which I think it's worth it for that reveal.
I think so.
And I think, and I a lot of times I don't like when stories will like jump you in at the halfway point and then go back. Like, I feel that can be done very poorly, very easily. Yeah. But I do feel like in this one, it gave you something to drive to. Like, even as you're getting to the peak of the Phantom Thieves, you know this is coming down somehow. And, you know, how every time you get a confidant, it jumps up to Nijima. And, you know, I think that was an interesting build-up. And I really liked that payoff happened not at the end. It happened, you know, It
happened kind of like at the big ramp-up to the finale.
Yeah. And, but the one thing, like, I might just... Again, like, I'm an idiot. I don't know like a lot of these things completely, but I'm a little confused about them killing the cognitive protagonist.
Yes.
I thought like if people's cognitive version died, they had the mental shutdown. Or they like died in real
only
life.
In their own palace, which is essentially their own kind of psyche, pretty much.
Okay.
Your shadow is. It is in the psychology that this game is based on. Your shadow is the part of you that you do not want to recognize or accept. It's the part of you that you do not like.
Right.
But it's not something that you can just destroy or get rid of. You have to accept it and move on from there with your life and become a better person. If you just erase that negative part, you're basically just dumping and deleting a part of your personality and who you are.
Like you're not you anymore.
Yeah. Now, in Persona 5, it said that, you in your psyche landscape, there exists a version of people that you meet that you know. So, Sai had Sai had a version of the main character in her own psyche because she's met him before. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of just grabbed that version, and you can destroy that version in someone else's palace and be totally fine.
So is that version just wherever you are? Like it's in the metaverse at the same place you are? So I mean like
it's implied that that the collective unconsciousness of people is pretty much like the normal world, but there are people who they kind of go off the deep end, they become too much of a megalomaniac, and that distorts the landscape.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, are we supposed to, because the protagonist went into that room, his cognitive version in Sai's metaverse thing or whatever was just also in that room? That's just how that works?
I'm blanking on some of the details. I think so, or I think it could have been that, because I think she probably met him at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
So I think it could have been likely that the rest of the Phantom Thieves went to the coffee shop, kidnapped that cognitive version and threw him in the room. I'm not exactly sure. It's been a while.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I kind of wish they went a little deeper into, like how exactly. I mean, they said that they went to the police interrogation room inside the palace, saw that it was the same, but they said there was some line about obviously the protagonist wouldn't be there or something. He wasn't there yet or something.
Right.
So they needed him to be there. Like. So I guess I wish that they had made it somewhat more clear about how that
happened.
Yeah, like how exactly he got there otherwise. And I was also still a little hung up on I was like, wait, shouldn't he have died basically after this? But
yeah.
Still.
And again, if you remember in the Okumura's palace that they kill the version of Haru's fiance, but that was in Okumura's psyche.
Right. Yeah, and because she was like, "Oh God, is he gonna die?" And they said,
"No, he's fine.
No, that's fine." Okay, so they did.
So that is kind of prepping you for that whole concept.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in this game where I'll give them credit. They set up things. It's just so far in advance, and there's just so many hours of stuff to go through. It's kind of you forget some of it.
I mean, you need the whole pancake thing,
I love that so much in hindsight. I was like, "Oh, that's so good." Like if you were like really attentive, you could have figured that out.
Yeah, and some people did. But I certainly did not remember that.
I did not either. But like after they went back to it, I remember that dialogue, and I remember him coming up, and I'm like, oh shit, that was Morgana that said that. I'm like, damn, that's awesome, that's so good.
Yeah, it's a thing because there's just so much dialogue in this game that if something weird happens and you don't call attention to it, then it's very easy to just kind of gloss over it and forget about it.
And like especially like in hindsight, I'm like, oh wow, maybe I should have like thought of something. But Futaba taking his phone,
yeah,
it just made sense to me because like they set her up as such a quirky, weird person, and the thing is like this is part of where the length comes to like favor Persona a lot is you go through so much with these characters that you're not like analyzing every little thing that happens like this has to be plot important.
Yeah,
it was like no, there's a lot of just character building stuff, so that's how we're able to see her grabbing Akechi's phone and messing around with it and not think what does this mean. It's like no, this could just be a character moment, and that's what we all assumed.
Yeah, she's a little like nacho or Dorito eating gremlin. Like it totally makes sense that she would do something like that.
It's the best description.
She's pretty much diva.
She's basically diva.
But do you wanna talk more about the story, or do you wanna jump into like kind of like a lightning round, Zeodyne round, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, either way, like I don't know where I could talk so much. I was about to start talking about Futaba too. I want to go through Futaba's comment at some point because I only got to like one with her because I did have the kindness. But just like I don't know, at some point we will go into the characters, but we can do the lightning round first and then maybe swoop back around to the characters.
Yeah. No, we'll talk about the characters because this kind of builds off of that.
Okay. I don't. Didn't actually have like a avenue to go down. I was just thinking about.
We can start with Ryuji, the first party member you get.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, Ryuji became. I mean, honestly, this is one of the biggest strengths I can say about Persona versus many other JRPGs I've played. Almost every single other JRPG I've played is. There's really no main cast member that I don't like. There's no main cast member that just gets on my nerves or that I think is just done in a, I don't know, JRPGs just have a lot of like this party member is just the sex object or this is just they're
just annoying
one and that's their entire characters that they're annoying. It was like, in this one, every single one of them, even like Haru comes in way later, they all like give you a reason to like care about their story and they all have like a pretty like messed up and detailed backstory behind them. And Ryuji was kind of the very first one of that. I like that he's just kind of your bro. I mean every Persona game has the bro character. Okay. It was Yosuke in Persona 4 is Junpei, who was by far the worst in Persona 3. Seriously, I hate that guy. This is why I'm so glad. Like, I don't hate anyone in this.
If you play Persona 3 Portable and you play as a female, he is the Junpei guy. He is actively misogynistic towards you.
Like, they change all of his dialogue for you playing as the female to be worse.
Well, one of the early plot points in Persona 3 is that he's butthurt that he's not the leader. And then if you're playing as a girl, it's like, why should a girl be the leader? Yeah. But anyways, Ryuji's a lot better than that.
Yeah.
I think it's easy for him to be kind of like the annoying punk guy, but he has a lot of great small details to him that I think really elevates his character. Like how much he cares about his mom.
And the track team thing.
And just and then also his relationship with An, I also really liked. That he was not like pining after her.
I like that too. They kind of got to a very like they were very real and honest with each other to a harsh degree. It was like Ryuji's was definitely like on the surface if you just read the dialogue and stuff. It's like they all hate Ryuji or something, but it's like it's a lot more.
We all have that friend that we just dump on,
right?
Like come on, like, let's be real here.
Exactly, and it went to like I kind of like subtly like Ryuji wasn't the best at saying it on the outside, but you felt that like he was almost the most passionate one out of all of them, and he cared so damn much about everything, about like that whole group of people, what they were doing. He's the one that like I mean on his own he would have crashed and burned and been terrible. He needed everyone else.
Not the brains in the operation.
No. But he was like about the most loyal person you could get, which is why we won't go into it because it very quickly they showed that it wasn't the case. But when they were doing the scene after you die and they were showing all the different party members and they got to Ryuji and he's like, yeah, we got him. I was like, no, game, you cannot be making Ryuji bad. Like, I thought, because you had just died and you didn't know what happened yet, and you just saw different party members like reacting like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, that scene where they're all walking around.
Yeah, and then it got to Ryuji and he smiles and he's like, yeah, we got him. And I was like, I swear to God, if Ryuji's been bad this whole time, I'm like quitting this game.
Someone also pointed out to me that Ryuji looks a lot like Eminem.
Yeah. Which
was fitting because I did name that my group a Phantom Thieves Mom's Spaghetti.
Hell yeah!
So
nice. I think Alex named him Smash Mouth.
Nice.
I just had the Phantoms because I'm boring. But
what was I gonna say? Yeah, I like that scene. I think it's in Ann's confidant quest line, where she's at the gym and she's working out and she's like, hey, Ryuji, if you help me get in shape, I'll go on a date with you. And he's just like, F that. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Which, I like that. They very easily could have, and they did in a lot of other cases, make just everyone wants on. But I do kind of like the Ryuji's the obvious one that would be like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, now they're like, yeah.
It's a nice change of pace from Yosuke in Persona 4, who was actively had a hard-on for every single girl on the team.
Anything that had a vagina.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next party member, Ann.
Yeah, which Ann was the character that I had romance, that I went for the romantic route with.
Okay.
Because
best girl.
Yeah, I was between Ann and Makoto. I was like already almost at max with Ann, and I think Makoto is also one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
But it got to the point in my head canon, I was like, I think he's with Ann, and Makoto is a very, very good friend.
Right.
But I liked Ann more than I thought I would, just because she definitely, again, I worry with a lot of these JRPGs, Ann's type of character a lot of times just becomes
airheaded,
just way too much of the airheaded sex object, and that's about it. But I feel like
I think that was a little there.
I'm not saying it wasn't there at all, but I think they enough times are aware of that trope and kind of play off of it with her, and like she is not this incompetent person. Like she's, definitely like a crucial part of the team, and at least I didn't get the impression that she's just this complete airhead idiot. She's like,
Yeah.
I thought they made her character. She was like smart and she cared a lot, and they kind of they definitely lean into it too much. Like Morgana's whole thing, anytime he talked about like Lady Ann, I was like, please just stop.
Yeah,
just stop. I love you, Morgana. This is the one part of your character I wish would just go away.
Yeah, which is interesting because I think I told you this before, but in Japan, Morgana's the word that he uses is inflective of like old samurai kind of speak. Think of him as like a chivalrous knight. Which kind of makes some of his feelings and his whole attitude towards Ann more of like a like a noble knight trying to woo the fair maiden, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which is a little slightly less cringy, I think.
Yeah, but I also love Morgana and like Morgana's voice and everything. Like I feel like it would be weird for Morgana to see Morgana as this weird knight character. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I would have liked that better, and I think the whole Zoro, his persona would make some sense in that regards.
Yeah.
But I really liked Ann's her kind of setup storyline with Kamoshida.
Yes, and I think that was probably one of the. I mean, I still think Kamoshida's palace and that whole storyline is one of the strongest in the game.
Yeah, I think. Definitely by far like the strongest opening however many hours to a Persona game.
Okay, yeah. I obviously can't speak to that. I mean, there's a lot of tutorials and stuff, but I feel like once you got into Kamoshida, like Kamoshida was an awesome bad guy to start that off, because obviously they escalate from there as far as who the character is and the importance to the grand plot. But I like that for that whole first palace, it's just like you're in this high school and that's it, and it's like this is a problem between these different characters, and they introduce you to Mishima and all that, and the whole Shiho plot line and everything
really
was
good.
Like it's one of the best in the game, and God, it's rough, and I love that. Like I love that they don't just wrap it up with a bow and it's done. It's like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours later into the game that's still coming up, and it's still like she's not good.
Yeah,
and because that's not how this works.
Yeah, you don't just defeat Kamoshida and like I'm good.
yep, all that abuse, it's fine now. It's like no, that has lasting effects that never really get fully resolved, and I'm glad they don't. I'm glad they don't just like wrap up with it. But and that's on like, and how On would be like all happy and carefree and stuff, but then when it comes to talking about Shiho, it feels like that was the times where they're like, okay, here is On as a real character. Like she's kind of like putting on a front at other times, but then like here's her dealing with like a real problem. Yeah. With her friend. And that's what really got me. That's what like I started, really growing onto.
Yeah. And I think that was a smart choice also to focus on her abuse and her friendship with her friend. Because there is another character in Persona 2 who is also mixed. And I think that other character, her story is more focused on her ethnicity and her relationship in Japan. I want to say her father was a American who moved into Japan and was really rich. And so it's kind of like she was very upper class, but she was also I want to say either fully white or half Japanese, and so her character arc is about that. And I'm glad that they did not do a similar thing with On. They kind of separated those two characters because they do look pretty similar. They both have blonde hair and like blue eyes or whatever.
Yeah, and that was like touched on somewhat, but not like
it wasn't the focus.
Right. Yeah, not like that. I feel like there was something else I was gonna say, but I forgot. But yeah,
it is talked about in the whole Kamoshida's thing with her, because it is like an interesting thing. From my understanding, is that if you're living in Japan and like you're either half white, half Asian, or you're fully white, you are kind of looked down on in general by society. It is a very mono ethnic state.
Yeah, and there's lots of, just from what I hear, xenophobic stuff.
But there's also like a weird sense of like desirability in that. Like people like certain features of half white, mixed race people or different things like that. So there's like a weird kind of.
But it's just like surface level.
Yeah, there's like it's like a fetishization, if you will. It's very interesting, and I felt like that was kind of called to in this On Kamoshida plotline.
Yeah, and it kind of just, they really like very early on. I think it's very smart to get you hooked into the game. Is like they really make you hate Kamoshida, and it really just shows. Yeah, he is this awful scumbag who just thinks that. He can do whatever you want. These people are objects that he can use. And it's a way that like gets you. I feel like people could like the Kamoshida storyline and go on to not really care for Persona 5. But I feel like even if you're not that into Persona, that first whole really arc good. Is probably going to get you. You're probably at least going to get through that first Kamoshida Palace before you bail on the game, because and it was such an awesome way of like you get introduced to these characters and you care about them so fast because they're just dealing with this shithead. Yeah. And it like kind of brings everyone together. And like I said, I feel like he's the one more than almost anyone else that like I'm in Okumura's palace in that like time period, and in the like conversations and stuff, Kamoshida's still coming up. It's like the effects of Kamoshida kind of go out for the entire game. And he's a great bad guy. You hate him so much. Say, one of my really good bad guy.
One of my lightning round questions was like, who's the best POS? And I'd say Kamoshida.
Yeah, I'd say probably Kamoshida. Probably, yeah.
Just a very punchable face.
Yep.
I don't blame Ryuji at all for trying to swing at him.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was the whole time. I was like, I get how but I do like even things like that. They take like. Yeah, you hate Kamoshida. Of course Ryuji should have punched him. Like that's no problem. But then
you think about it in the real world, if a kid did that.
Yeah, and then you hear about the other people being like, yeah, but because you did that, it ruined it for everyone. All of our lives got like way worse. Like, yeah, you got to feel good for a second, but you didn't think about us, and like that was interesting. I like that a lot. But
let's talk about Morgana for a second.
Yeah, I swear we'll get to your lightning rounds.
We're kind of working in some of those questions here, so that's fine. So Morgana, yay or nay?
Very hard yay, which I was worried about just from the vague things I know about Teddy and the like scenes and stuff. And I'm sure Teddy gets better and everything, but from everything I've from what I like, it seems, I might be wrong, but it seems like Persona 4, you have to go through Teddy being annoying to have the payoff of Teddy being better.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Right. I was worried, and this is one thing, like, I don't play a lot of Japanese games or watch a lot of Japanese anime and different things like that. I'm not trying to, like, paint with a huge broad brush, but it's just, I hate that type of character. It's like the intentionally annoying character that's just, like, I don't know. It bugs me. It bugs me when that type of character, and I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to deal with Morgana because I thought Morgana was going to be a lot like I've seen Teddy in the past. But I really did, like, I felt a connection to Morgana, and I really like how he starts off being like, yeah, like, I'm not trying to be on a team with you or anything. We're just like, we have the same goal. It's like, I'm just using you to get through here. I have my own reasons for doing this, and then that slowly evolves into
genuine care.
Like care and support from him. And yeah, it just got to the point where like Morgana was just your constant companion with everything you do. And even the simplest little things, like you go do something, he's like, yeah, I think we should study here. I think we should do this. It was just cool. It was just cool having this cat in your backpack that was like a cool dude hanging out with you the whole time.
Yeah, he definitely grew on me too. And I would say he's by far better than Teddy. I appreciate that he's not trying to be like the lovable mascot character that Teddy was in Persona 4. He's more just like a smug little cat. He's very, he has the personality of a cat in a lot of ways.
Oh, and he gets mad when you consider him the cute mascot character. Yeah. He's like, no.
So I liked his feisty angle. What'd you think about the whole part where he disappears?
I hate it.
Yeah, me too.
I absolutely despise it. Yeah. And if you're going to do that, if you're gonna have the moment where he disappears and everything, which is already weird and dumb or whatever, but despite that being weird and dumb, the impact of Morgana being gone, you felt that, and like you saw the other characters like talk about like, I wonder what Morgana would do. I guess we really needed Morgana or whatever. Like, even though that whole thing was dumb, I was like, okay, this was a good emotional impact. There was that came out of it, and I was like, I really feel this. This is sad. Then he comes back in the door. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you had your cake and ate it too. I was like, no, if you're going to do this, you got to commit to it. I was like, that drove me crazy.
Yeah, like, I'm gone. Nope, I'm back.
I hate that so much.
The only result of that whole arc was that Haru joins the team, which, if I recall correctly.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about, or I hate that too, but I was actually talking about the very end whenever he dies and comes back. Right. Okay, we were talking about two different things.
That
do you hate that too?
I hate that too.
I hate that.
I hate both of those.
That's what I was talking about, but I do also hate the middle part too. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Then I'll rearrange to that.
But similar points stand.
The similar points definitely stand. Well, that I was like, okay, if you're gonna like, whenever he came back, I was like. Well, whenever he left, I was like, this is weird, but I could see this being like, oh, this is going to be a thing for a while. It's going to be like, you have to get by without Morgana. I thought we were going to even go through a palace or something. Yeah. And it's like, yep, you thought you were going to have Morgana here.
Like, dang it, I don't have any wind personas.
Exactly. And that would be cool. That would have been a cool challenge to have to go through. I mean, like,
totally.
Kind of everyone knows it, but at one point, the Final Fantasy VII reveal with, spoilers, Aerith dying. That was something that when people were playing that game, you were leveling up Aerith, you were giving her material, doing all this, and then she's gone, and you have to play the rest of the game without her, and that's interesting. And they kind of do that with Akechi. He's just there for a little bit and gone. So I thought that was what was going to happen, and I thought that was going to be a plot point going forward. But then it was just like, nope, they do this for like 30 minutes of gameplay, and then he's right back, and there was really no cost for it. I'm like,
yeah. It just felt really cheap.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Yeah, and then the second part where he disappears around Okamura's palace, it was just like, what was the only thing that we got was Haru into the party from this whole ordeal.
And I feel like you could have done that in another way.
Better way.
Yeah, and even having Morgana kind of like, that was like a character moment for him, like, trying to figure out what he really wants or what he really thinks about the party, where he belongs or whatever. You could have had that without that whole section.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, we were kind of building towards that anyway. he was slowly becoming more like he actually wants to be in the party, and you felt that. Like, I felt like where we ended up was no different than we all thought we were going to end up. We just had this weird detour.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was strange.
But I enjoyed his character.
Yeah, I did too.
I think overall.
I did too. He was a lot of fun. And he was a staple in my party because he was my main healer.
Yeah, definitely. He's really good.
The only two characters that were like always in my party at all times was Joker and Morgana. The other two slots.
Well, Joker has to be there.
Yeah, obviously Joker. Which I wish that we would do away with that. I wish we would do away with the protagonist when he dies. It's over.
Yeah,
and that the protagonist has to be in the fighting party. I hate
that
both
is
of
the
those
weirdest thing in Dragon Quest. I always have my main character in the party because I just don't realize that he doesn't have to be there.
That you can take him out. Yeah.
But anyways, let's go on to Yusuke. So
Yeah.
who is best boy? Who's best bro? Yusuke or Ryuji, or somebody else?
I like them both. They're the complete opposites.
Yeah.
They're like the complete antithesis of each other. So that's a hard question. I don't know. Probably Ryuji, but I like Yusuke way more than I thought I did.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Yusuke.
It was a lot of things in Persona 5. There was a lot of characters that was like, I liked them way more than I thought I would. And I kind of figured you were Yusuke. Like, I thought of you every single time Yusuke did anything.
I
was
am
like,
Yusuke.
Yeah, that's what he looks like you. He kind of like just
has that vibe.
The artsy vibe of it.
Doing JoJo poses in a church.
Oh, absolutely.
It was amazing.
I thought about you with like every Yusuke moment. But.
His confidant is probably one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
It was really good.
The weird like big pipe thing, and I kind of forgot what it changes into. Or sorry, you're talking about his confidant.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went to his persona, but his persona is also one of my favorites design wise. But that was, I love kind of how over the top he is, but we've all kind of known that like super artsy person that is maybe not quite as over the top as he is, but everything in Persona is a little bit of an exaggeration on purpose.
Yeah, and I just love the bit of him just always being out of money, and then when he gets money, he just buys the dumbest stuff.
The dumbest thing in the world. He's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I can't pay for the train ticket home for where we just went."
I think my favorite little like detail about him was when you're at the beach, and one, he's wearing like that weird hoodie thing, but he's doing the whole fingers with the portrait sort of thing.
Like, the lobsters.
Yeah,
it comes up with the.
But I also appreciated him as just kind of this. He felt like a different voice, especially in the later parts of the game, where he was, I think, voicing some concerns that were a little different, I think, than some of the more leaders of the group, like Ryuji or Morgana or Makoto.
Yeah. And Yusuke is another one that is just like, you realize how long Persona is and how much of a good thing that is for it, because by the time I get to the end of the game, it's like hard to remember. I'm like, oh yeah, Yusuke was this like person that we didn't know that was kind of like against the group in a way or whatever. It's like that feels like so long ago. It's like I feel like I've actually been with Yusuke for like the better part of a year, like because of the like day-to-day thing of it. That just feels like, oh yeah, Yusuke, you remember when that happened? That was weird. Like, you know what I mean? It just feels like that was so long ago in a good way. That's like you spend so much time with these characters that you grow to bond with them, and you kind of forget that like, oh wait, they haven't always been here. Same thing with Makoto. It's like, oh yeah, like Makoto, all of them seem like such a part of the party that it's like it's hard to remember, oh yeah, they weren't here. There was entire sections of this game where they weren't here.
Which and then we'll move on to Makoto, which that is a character I felt probably should have been introduced before Yusuke. They probably should have gone, you get your four people, Ryuji, on Morgana.
Yeah,
and then probably, I don't know, maybe
I'm
not.
interested. Why do you think that?
I just felt like at that point, for up until that game, you didn't really have like a strong like the leader or like the brains, I guess, of the group.
Yeah,
and that's what Makoto I think really brought.
Absolutely.
Who I really liked her character.
Oh, I love Makoto. She's
just badass.
One of my absolute, maybe even my favorite character. I mean, like. Like An was my romance. That doesn't mean that she was my favorite like confidant character. I mean, Makoto was great. Yeah, in every stage of it,
And I love her.
I mean, I kind of do like that. Like you've been through all of this, and then Makoto comes in here. And it's like, wait a minute, what are you doing? No, we need to do this. I kind of like. I kind of like where she came into the story because it was
really well done.
You had been doing it long enough. Like you'd been doing this long enough to where she could come in and be like. I don't know. I felt like the change, like she probably out of all of them had the biggest change in the party. Like everything just felt different after her, and I kind of like that happened after you had already had 2 palaces under your belt.
Yeah,
because it just made the change that more noticeable, And they were even like, "Oh wow, this is a lot better with Makoto around."
Yeah, and I also really like the dungeon that she starts off in, which is the bank one.
The bank one, yeah. I
thought it was a really, really nice visual design, but also that song, really solid. I think so. And it also changes halfway through the dungeon too.
Okay, I don't remember that. It's been a while. It's been way longer for you, but it's been a while for me too.
And what's interesting that a thing that they added in this game, as far as gameplay goes, is that nuclear and the psychic abilities. Those are added in. Those are new.
Oh, so they weren't in the other ones?
Yeah, they weren't in Persona 3 or 4. They might have been in Persona 2, and then they took them out, and they kind of
Did everyone kind of have their own element in the other ones, too?
Yeah.
Those? Okay.
But, yeah, pretty much. But I say there were more characters in the older games that were just kind of pure physical characters.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I liked Makoto a lot, and I liked her S-Link as well. Thought that was a lot of fun.
What did hers do?
It was her friend who was kind of dating a host from a host club.
You just mean like her
confidant,
her storyline.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was like the ability you got or something. Like I don't know all these terms exactly.
No, sorry, I'm bouncing around. But
yeah. No, I like her. Yeah, I like that one a lot too. It was cute. The like pretending to be your boyfriend thing was pretty adorable, and then
I think my favorite part was just the slap at the end of that, where I was just like, "Damn!"
You slapped her, jeez. Yeah, I like the conversation afterwards in the bar. She's like, "Maybe I shouldn't have done that."
Like, no, you probably should.
Like, you should have done
that. Which, really interesting, and I liked her character a lot. I did end up dating her on my first playthrough.
I figured that as well.
I liked her a lot.
Yeah, I like Makoto a whole lot.
And I liked her relationship, I think, with the main character, because it really felt like we're gonna run this show here. Right. It really felt like they, as far as team members, had a good leadership quality to them.
Yeah, she had like a commanding presence coming in there, but I also liked that like she's kind of the like uber competent like person in there. She's introduced and she's just like super competent in everything she does.
But has a lot of self-doubt.
And so much self-doubt, and that plays into it. She's like, yeah, I've spent so much time to be so good in my studies and everything, but what was the point? She's like, even the class president and Miss Perfect, like everything is perfect about her, and she's like envious of other people who are, doing other things with their lives. And I think that was such an interesting element to her character that you kind of had to get to know her to bring out.
Yeah, which I think has a different tone when you consider her sister.
Yeah.
Which I really like that part of her.
She's also one of my favorite characters, just period, too. But
she's so stylish.
Yes. Yes.
And
best palace. We'll get to that. Yeah, that's why you're like rounds, but it's not even a question to me. Yeah. The casino is the best palace.
I have to agree. But Sai and Makoto, because it's like Sai is a top dog prosecutor in Tokyo, which not a lot of female prosecutors in Japan,
and they talk about that.
Yeah. And so it's like, if you're looking up to this older sister who's probably like 10 years older than you, who's highly successful and is tough and just stone cold dedicated to their job, like as a younger sibling, like you got to be like, I got to be just as good as them. And then you tie into the whole thing with her dad. And it's like, there's a lot of pressure on her to be as good as her sister.
Yeah, and it's interesting that like she, in the context, whenever you see her and the rest of the Phantom Thieves and like other students, she's just like the perfect one, the one that's better than everyone else, super competent. But then you also see her in her own household, she feels like she's the inferior person.
Yeah.
Like, even though she's better than all these other people in a lot of ways, she's inferior to her. And then to see her with the principal, like when you're still like learning her, like you see Makoto in a lot of like very vulnerable spots because she's dealing with adults and dealing with people who have power over her, even though she's, super competent. And I definitely I want to go in the second playthrough and kind of go through that whole section knowing Makoto now. Because I feel like you saw her a lot of times before she was actually like involved with your immediate party.
Yeah, which is something that I'll talk about when we get to Haru. Okay. Let's talk about Futaba really quickly.
Futaba is also, I guess they're all one of my favorite characters. Because Futaba, and just with everything about Persona, Futaba is another one that I didn't expect to really like. Just if you Futaba's character on paper, and I was worried how they would deal with the whole as we went into. I was worried how they would deal with this person that deals with depression, anxiety, kind
agoraphobia.
of hermit. Yeah, agoraphobia. I forgot the actual name. But that whole palace was so cool to me. That was another big turning point for the whole game for me, was that we're going to you've done 3 palaces at this point. We're going to kind of take this concept and turn it on its head.
Yeah.
Instead of going against some just absolute scum of the earth, Yakuza boss or sexual assault person in the high school, you're going to get someone good who you like.
Yeah.
You want to. You don't hate them. They actually want your help. They want their heart to be taken.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such an interesting angle that kind of shifted everything you thought about.
It was a good throwback, I'd say, to the dungeons from Persona 4, because the way that these dungeons and the whole what you're fighting kind of changes every game. But this was that idea from Persona 4 still works in this new kind of concept of the palaces.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Where you're kind of going in there and you're fighting someone's shadow.
Yeah.
For them to accept it and then grow from there.
And yeah, that was interesting because they go in there and just like they do with a lot of palaces, they're we're just going to go right towards the treasure. And especially this one, it's she wants us to take it. We can just walk right up there. And it's no, it's not that simple.
You got to go all around the pyramid, which I thought was a really cool dungeon as you kind of unlock different areas, and it makes a straight line
the
to
main
the treasure.
corridor. Yeah, even the layout kind of changed everything on its head too, because all the safe rooms were basically just on that one corridor, and you were going. And I thought the puzzles and everything in there were really cool too. I was already loving the game at that point, because just for context, when I was about halfway through Madarame's Palace when I stopped playing in 2017, and then when I picked it up on this playthrough and finished, I picked up from there. So obviously I was really enjoying it through Madarame's and into Kanashiro's, but I feel like Futaba is when it was really
the turning point.
I am playing this game to the end. Right now. I'm not taking another break. I'm just going straight through. And then I think some of Futaba's best moments was after the change of heart, whenever I really liked that it's not you change her heart and then it's she's outgoing and running all over the place. It was you had to put in the work, and it was I liked them all right, who's with Futaba today? All right, you guys are with her. Let's try her with different people.
Yeah.
Let's try baby steps to get her out of her comfort zone. And I thought that was done really well and had moments I think one of the most emotionally impactful moments to me was in the electronics store in Akihabara or whatever with her, when she kind of has her breakdown.
Yeah.
It was just you I don't know, because obviously you people who deal with anxiety,
that sort of issue,
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't relate completely. I deal with some issues, nothing that severe, but that's a very real, just like so many themes in Persona, that's a real thing. That's a very real thing that people deal with, and I at least felt like it was handled pretty well.
Yeah, and it's the thing that I like about Persona is that every time a character awakens to their persona, or in Persona 4 where you beat their shadow and they accept it and that sort of thing, it's not an instant fix. Right. And then a lot of the confidants after that is helping that character grow now that they've made that acceptance in their life.
Right. And seeing Futaba go from, she's having to text you through her doorway, she can't even talk to you, to being able to go out in public and everything. It felt like you were proud of your friend. You know?
Totally.
It definitely felt that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I liked her relationship with Sojiro a lot as well.
Oh, yeah. That was around the point where I was I wish I had been ranking up Sojiro more, because that's when he starts becoming a really cool character.
Yeah, I remember because I was pursuing his confidant pretty rigorously in the first part of the game before you meet Futaba, and then it just stopped leveling up. I was like, why won't you love me?
Oh, so does it just stop mechanically?
Eventually, Futaba comes into his confidant, and you can't progress until you meet Futaba.
Does it at least save up the ranks you're getting with him so that you can just go boom, 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 boom after that or something?
You're not wasting
time.
You might be wasting time.
Yikes.
But yeah, and
I definitely think there was some like Makoto. I definitely just through like her saying, "Hey, do you want to study together?" and stuff like that. I got a bunch of ranks up with her, even though my charm wasn't good enough. And then once my charm got good enough, it was like I got 4 straight. I got like every single time I was able to hang out with her, I ranked up. So I think they build.
There's also, I think different dialogue choices also impact how it ranks up.
They definitely do.
Yeah.
But I think there's no way that I had that much just from choosing a few dialogue choices because I literally went like boom, boom, boom. But I ranked her like I maxed her out without having to do any normal hangouts with her. So I don't know.
It's
I'm not sure.
Interesting how that whole mechanic works.
Yeah.
And also her mom, her whole deal about the research that she does and
with Futaba,
which ties into the main plot, but it also is kind of like a callback to Persona 3 and some of the stuff that was going on in that game. So even though these games are all separate, there are interesting ties to each of the previous games.
Yeah. And that's I feel like that whole thing is especially interesting in hindsight to be like, this is really like 2 gods basically playing with these people.
Yeah.
But it's like I love the mix between fantasy and real world, and the real world not really being aware of the fantasy, just kind of like interacting with it in little ways. And I kind of like the idea of scientists trying to look into something that's really
this occult metaphysical
gods.
thing.
But they're looking into it from a scientific angle and trying to explain basically the machinations of 2 gods playing a game.
Yeah,
it's like that's interesting to me.
Definitely,
that's very cool.
That's the thing that I like about Persona in general is that the kind of very real world, down to earth kind of setting and designs. Like I hate a lot of JRPG character designs.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Tetsuya Nomura, a character does not need that many zippers.
Oh, dear. I mean, and I didn't realize this until recent pictures. Sora in Kingdom Hearts 1 was straight up wearing a romper.
Yeah.
Straight up a romper.
Romp him. Sora was really progressive, man.
Yeah, man.
But even all your party members, like they have their own style to them, but it makes sense and it's realistic looking, I'd say. Like, it's not so over the top or outlandish.
I agree. And even their their Phantom Thief costumes, like they all it made sense because this dream world, and it's kind of what you think a thief, a super awesome thief.
It's kind of what they think of themselves,
basically. And I think it was just enough just awesome style, which this game is just oozing with style.
Mm-hmm.
Just enough of that, but like you said, not so much that it becomes parody almost. Just. Yeah, I think I agree with you. It was tasteful extravagance.
Yes.
Which is kind of this whole game.
Pretty much.
Tasteful extravagance.
It's been a while since I played it, but I'll see video clips of it, of some of the UI or some of the screen transitions. I'm like, man, this game
much. The simplest little setting, the simplest little page. And what I love about it, kind of just going off on a tangent here, but it's the menus, all the menus are different. The clinic is looks different with the silhouette of Takami whatever.
Takemi.
And then the Airsoft shop looks different, and even just your menu, they all look crazy and different and kind of mean something to whatever character. But I never felt like the crazy designs got in the way of the practicality of using the menu. You know what I mean? I feel like there's times this is a weird example, but Fable 3, if you go to the pause menu in Fable 3, you walk around in it.
I hate it so much.
You walk around in there or whatever, and it's I feel like that was just style over practicality.
Yeah.
They just wanted to do this thing, but it didn't. It's not practical.
So time consuming.
I feel like in Persona, everything was oozing with style, but I never was it never got in the way. You knew how to use everything. Everything worked great. It just looked amazing.
Totally. Yeah. And let's talk about Haru, our final party member.
I feel like she's kind of the one, unfortunately, that, obviously I didn't get her confident rank at all because it was just too late in the game, and I was I feel like she's the second playthrough one that you get that. But I also feel like she's the one character that by the time you get her in your party, it's kind of the happy-go-lucky, just hanging out with your friends part of the game is over. You're like,
which felt really unfortunate for her.
It sucks for her because I feel like everyone else, you got to hang out with them during a time where it's like, we're on top of the world, everything's cool and happy. And I feel like she's introduced, and then very shortly after, probably the most horrific scene in the entire game happens when you watch her dad die and then see her immediate reaction. It's like, God.
And you're at like Disney Tokyo when that happens.
That was also one of the most impactful moments of the game where I was like, and you know it's about to happen. You're like, oh, you're just like cringing, like, oh
no. Funny enough, I got my girlfriend Celeste to play it, and that's who she wanted to date. And I was like, okay, here's what you gotta do.
Gotta go.
We got 2 weeks.
This is your life now.
Yeah. It was close, but
you better beat this palace in 1 day because you need all the days you can get.
Well, it was actually after the palace.
Okay.
But it was like, okay, go to the fortune teller. You got to do this just every day. Like,
did she do it?
She did it.
Nice.
You got it. But I like Haru a lot. I wish that her character was introduced way earlier in the game.
It's a little too late. Yeah.
I feel like her gardening mechanic, which I barely use, I feel like that would have been a lot more useful. Like earlier back in April and May.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I hope that in Persona 5R they kind of tie her character in earlier.
That would be a big change.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to like have a, you could probably introduce her confidant maybe like a little earlier. But just at least the vegetable, the gardening sort of thing. Yeah. Just as a character.
I mean, to be fair, I don't know what they changed with like Golden and stuff. That just seems like she's so tied into the plot. I don't really know how, unless you're going to change the entire story for there. I don't know how you tie her in earlier.
I mean, you could just introduce her as like, hey, you're new at school. I'm put in charge of showing you around. I also do gardening.
Yeah, that can happen. Yeah, I guess.
Because the final party member in Persona 4, that character shows up as early as the the second dungeon, so you are familiar with that character all the way up until you finally go into their
I feel
dungeon.
Like in Persona 5 more than almost any game I've ever played, it's like you get some of those party members late. I mean even Futaba is pretty late compared to most JRPGs.
Totally.
I mean, that's.
Yeah. So I mean, I like Haru a lot. I think she's a great character, but I wish that she was somehow maybe not in your party, but in the story around somehow way earlier.
Yeah, and they did like kind of show her a few times, but I think they could probably have her just in the background for a few things. But I feel like she's definitely probably the one that I like care about the least, not because of her, but just again because of
doesn't get enough time.
Not enough screen time going through there. There is one thing, and again, I know we're going very long. If you need to go, feel free. But I'm enjoying diving deep into all these.
You can resume this later. Like you can split it up. Time to the listener.
Yeah. One thing that kind of bugged me about Haru and her storyline, and I don't know if you feel the same way. I really felt like whenever her dad does die in there, I assumed that there was going to be a lot more of a repercussion from that as far as her character and her relationship with you guys. Because I was thinking if I was in her perspective, I meet these random people, they say they're going to come in here and help me fix my dad, basically, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna join with them because I'm very desperate to have this happen, but I don't really know these people that well, but I'm gonna join with them to do this. They keep saying everything's gonna be okay. They're assuring me they've done this before. It's whatever. We go do it, and then this happened. They tell you everything's gonna be fine, and then your dad just collapses and dies there. My reaction would be like, you guys either set me up or you're incompetent. Either way, fuck off. Yeah. I mean, and I felt like that would be the normal reaction. I feel like there was way too little, there needed to be more of a wedge driven in there, I feel like. I didn't feel like it was realistic how, it just felt like it was plot that was like, okay, well, she has to get back with your party. So she's sad for a few days, and then she's still on your side. And it didn't sit the best with me,
Yeah, I mean, I understand needing that really positive character, but she bounced back a little too quickly.
She went through hell.
Yeah,
and I thought I thought that's what they were driving at, is that you were telling her one thing and then the complete opposite happened, so she didn't trust you. I thought that's where it was going, and obviously it wasn't your fault because in hindsight it was Akechi. Akechi is the one that killed him. But I thought that was going to be part of like driving a wedge into Phantom Thieves. That's part of what Akechi's doing in a way. And it just kind of never went there. And I was like, that felt like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think she could have used a lot of work, but I liked a lot of her moments. The few that she had, like the whole takoyaki part, where it was like the really spicy one. That was really funny.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to like her character more, but again, she just didn't have enough time.
I mean, she was very likable, and at the end, I mean, like she felt like a member of the team for sure. It's just I think it was just a product of it's a long ass game.
Yeah, it's September,
and they just want to introduce a character like per palace, basically. Instead of
which again, going back to Persona 4, they introduced their final character a lot better because you kind of know that character's deal, and then going through their palace at the end of 4 around the same time, it really. You get a better. I think like that character felt more complete by the time that they joined the party than Haru in Persona 5.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Is there anything else you want to talk about, or do you want to jump into the little lightning round?
I think we can jump into the lightning round.
All right. What's your favorite confidant?
Probably Takami. I can never say your name.
Tai Takemi.
Okay, I never tried to pronounce. Oh no! I mean, like I don't know. I haven't thought completely about it, but just on the top of my head, I think she's my favorite one.
I liked hers a lot.
A lot of it, I just liked her character so much. Like just from very early on in the game when I didn't really know what this game was yet, and just having like this shady back alley
friendly neighborhood goth doctor
who's just like injecting you with random things in your guinea pig. I just thought that was so absurd and it was funny.
She also had, in my opinion, she also had like the best style.
Oh yeah.
Without a doubt. Like,
oh yeah. She was so cool. It was this weird dichotomy, like she's a doctor, but she absolutely does not look like a doctor, like at all.
Totally.
And that was kind of the point, But I like how they bring you in with that premise of just like this is kind of weird and crazy, and she's like likable even though it's like what the hell is going on here. And then I really do feel like that drew me in, and she kind of had this this outwards persona of not really caring or just she was
apathetic.
Just kind of, And then as you got to know her more, you got to realize that's not really her. Like she has this whole tragic past, and that she's trying to like kind of push away. She
got done dirty.
Yeah,
like really hard,
dirty, like so many people did in this universe. And I mean, like some of I think some of what happened in there is a bit crazy, like potential leaps of logic about like lying to her about the girl being dead and like all this other stuff. It's like, this is a bit crazy, but on the surface level, I thought it was like a cool arc. And you felt like you were introduced to her early enough, and like as you're going through everything, when it got to the point where it's like you finally get the mementos thing to go after the other doctor, like I felt like I really wanted to do that. I was like, we need to go right now. We need to go right there now and do that. And I just thought the payoff was really good, and her character was cool. And her confidant, the abilities you get are so good.
Oh, yeah.
So good. I feel like I can't imagine playing the game without those items. And then once I got the SP adhesives and got them for a discount. Game changer.
Yeah.
You better believe every single one of my party members had SP adhesive 3, and I could go all the way to the end of a palace basically on one go, and it was so good.
I have a lot of favorites. I like the No Good Torah, the politician guy.
I wanted to go through. I only got to like rank 3 with him. It's just a product of some of these confidants get lost.
What's interesting is that you can't complete his confidant once the election season starts, because he's like, hey, due to like legal laws, real world laws, I can't have you like being my aide or whatever during the election or something. It was really interesting. It was just like a weird real world reason as to why you couldn't hang out with him.
Like a real Japan reason.
Yeah. Like a legal
that's interesting.
like law. Something like you couldn't have like a minor be as like page or whatever.
Yeah, okay. Did he send a text about that or something?
Yeah.
I think there was sometimes when I knew what confidant I was going to, I didn't check my messages from the other people, so I probably missed that.
Yeah,
which I maybe should have been doing that, but there was times where it's like, I know I'm going after this person. Shut up, you. The rest of you, like, quit texting me.
Mm-hmm. But he's pretty much like just Japanese Bernie Sanders, like straight up. I liked his a lot, but you didn't really complete his. My favorite though.
But I also do like. I was just gonna say I like that so much of this is just like these like crooked adults. We have to like change them because they won't change themselves. I like that he's one that did horrible things and changed, and like he changed. He's trying to repent from that, and it wasn't from any outside thing you were doing. It was like he's an example of someone actually changing themselves, which I thought was an interesting. You know.
Like you can make jokes about how this game is like, oh, those adults, little 16-year-old shakes fist. Yeah. And you don't understand me, Dad, like that sort of thing. But
there's a lot of that.
There's a lot of that. But there are good adults. You have Sejiro, this guy, adults who were bad and then changed, and you also have some kids who are also pretty awful to other kids.
Yeah. And as much as Mishima's a bit annoying, but like he definitely has some of his where it's like the shithead kid who ends up being better. But
I liked his arc a lot.
I definitely I just imagine that he's one that everyone probably hates. I mean,
he's meant to be hated.
He's meant to be annoying, but I liked him. I mean, like I thought, he's another one of those. He means very well. He's loyal. He's loyal, if anything else.
Yeah.
He's very, very, very loyal.
I like the part of him when you're in Hawaii and he wins the poker game. It was him, right? Where it's like, okay, we have more people than there are beds. And so we're going to play a game.
Oh, right. Okay. I forgot that it was a poker game. I just remember him winning. Yeah, I remember
that. But my favorite confidant is EY, the gun store owner.
I regret that I got to like rank 5, but
he's just a cool dude. And I love the part where you first meet him and he's like, I can't remember what he asks you, but like one of the dialogue options is like, we hate cops. And he's like, good, me too. He's just this weird, like kind of shady guy. But then when
Yakuza.
you get, ex-Yakuza, and then when you get into his confidant, it's like he's a dad, and he's hiring you to work at the store, but also to like keep tabs on his son. And there's a lot of really good father-son, like kind of heartwarming moments.
I think there's a lot of persona of someone's like outside, like judging book on the cover doesn't end up being who they really are, and I could definitely see that going that direction. I wish I could have finished it.
But all around cool dude. What was your least favorite confidant? Now I will say, compared to the other games, I think Persona 5 has the best overall like quality of confidants. Whereas the other ones, it was like there were some really good ones, and there were characters that you actively hated and avoided.
And it's a hard one to answer because just inherently the ones that I saw the most were obviously ones that I liked, just because I could only get through so many of them. So if I didn't like one, I kind of dropped it.
Yeah, but what was the character that you met and you're like, no?
Definitively that arcade kid.
Yeah, and get smoked.
And I'll be honest, a lot of it was that his English voice actor was terrible.
You're really bad.
Oh, so bad. So bad. I mean, I think most of the voice acting in Persona is pretty good. But most of it is good. But I will say the confidants are the worst ones. And there were some of them, even like the doctor, and I did the journalist one too. Yeah. Both of them, through most of their confidant, you're just reading text. And then you get to they don't speak too many lines. You get to the very end and it's all spoken. And I'm like, oh, you don't sound like I thought you would. It's like, oh, this doesn't sound right. Oh, this is not good. This is not good. But also just like, I don't know, like that one, I imagine that kid probably becomes more interesting, but just from the very beginning, it's like this kid trying to teach me how to play this arcade game, and he just seemed obnoxious. So I bailed out from him, but even that, like, I'm sure it gets good. I only did the first one of it.
Yeah, I can't remember a lot of the details from his, but I think his is about how, again, kids can also be pretty corrupted or, pretty awful, have corrupted desires, if you will.
But other than that, I really can't think of any I didn't like. I mean, like I said, Mishima's not my favorite, but it's not bad by any stretch.
Yeah, I didn't like Oya's for a long time, but then I think hers really turned around in the last few.
I definitely got to the point with Oya that, like, I didn't necessarily like her confidant for most of it. It's just, she just happened to, somehow, I got the high, like, really high with her. So it just got to the point I was getting late enough in the game where it's like, okay, I gotta finish these. Like, I gotta just take the ones that are the highest and run with them, or I'm not gonna finish anything.
Yeah.
So she was one that I kind of like, I guess I'm doing her, but I agree with you. Towards the end, it was like, okay, this is coming around. Like,
yeah,
she's definitely not one of my favorites. Another one that I finished was Togo, the
Shogi girl.
The Shogi girl. I liked hers a lot more than I thought I would too. Like,
I like how
I really ended liking her. Like, I feel like her character was very identifiable. Like, I think I said this on the podcast. I feel like a lot of characters in Persona, you could just give me random dialogue about them talking about something random, and I could pinpoint who it is.
Yeah,
because like they're just written really well, and I feel like she's definitely one that I could probably be like, yep, that's her. Yeah.
Fun fact: she was originally supposed to be a party member.
Really?
Yeah,
that would have been cool. Yeah.
I agree.
She seems like characteristically wise, like she seems fleshed out enough, and even her backstory so much sounds like a backstory. Like, you know, one of the tragic, like, an adult is using her, and you could have totally seen that been an arc with her mom using her for the stage shoji matches and get famous and everything. That totally could have been.
Yeah, that happens all the time. Like, you see, like, those, like, reality TV shows where it's, like, the kids in, like, a beauty pageant and the parents are just controlling everything.
Oh, yeah.
But I like the ending to her confidant where she loses.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you know, like, I'm not that good of a player. Like, I'm decent, but
a lot of this has been fake, and a lot of this has been bullshit. Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, I'm going to get better, but...
And you think the typical ending to that story is, and then she wins and proves everyone wrong. But yeah, I liked it. It got to the very dramatic end of that, and she loses badly.
Yeah, it's like you can enjoy something without having to be like a prodigy at it. I really liked hers a lot. I also like Kawakami's. That one's fun.
Okay, yeah, I kind of forgot about her, and she's another one that I'm sure gets better. But yeah, I forgot. Maybe that's one I should have talked about. Like, at least I was only like 2 ranks in, and that's about as far as I ever got. And that I just assumed that I was like, okay, this is where the game gets really weird and sexual for no good reason. Like, just scummy. It was like, yeah, your homeroom teacher's secretly a maid, and you call her to your house to do work for you and stare at her. It was like, this is weird, but I'm sure it gets better.
Yeah, do you want to know the reason why she does that?
I guess I probably will replay this at some point. But I mean, you can go ahead. I know, like, vaguely. I got far enough to where she said something about someone that she was paying money for, but then even that seemed like it was a lie. So
yeah, it was pretty much she was helping like a kid at her wherever she taught previously, and then because I guess like the parents of that kid, you know, didn't want them to go to college for whatever reason. And it was like, okay, we want you to go to, like, you know, get a job, go to trade school or whatever. And then I think she was tutoring this other kid after school. I think he got into an accident on the way home from that tutoring session and died. And then the parents were pretty much extorting her for money.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That sucks.
So she's like working all the time so she can wire these really awful people money. I liked hers a lot.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I probably judged it too fast, and I knew it would get better, but again, it was one of those that's like, I have to go with, you know, I'm not going to be able to get to all of these. And I just, by the way that was set up with the, like, Operation Made Watch, I was like, okay, all right, I think I see where this is going. And then obviously I didn't see where it was going.
But I will admit, her romance is pretty great.
I can't imagine it.
Do it.
I can't imagine it. Like, I can't imagine it not being creepy.
Oh, it's creepy, but it's hilarious at the same time. I mean, I'd say it's less creepy than dating Futaba. If you date Futaba, that's messed up.
Does it not get to not be creepy?
No.
Okay. I could have seen Futaba getting to... You grow to a place where it's
pretty much like groom this girl to be your your girlfriend.
I guess in that way, that's pretty weird.
And she's also like low key your sister. Yeah, I mean, like, Sojiro is like pretty much like your foster dad.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought you meant biologically, and I was like,
no. Okay. Plot twist.
Yeah. No. I was like, did I miss something?
I will say, one confidant that it was okay, but there's a thing at the end that just totally turned me off was the fortune teller lady.
I didn't do her at all. So,
well, her whole deal is that she's from the country, and so she moved to the city, and someone is basically using her naivety against her. And she, at the very end, she's like, "Yeah, I'm from the country, but like I just changed my accent because I want to fit in around here. I don't want to sound like a hick." And so she reverts to the hick accent. And it is howdy, y'all.
Oh, no.
I'm from the country. It's real bad. Like, might as well put a cowboy hat on her. And
sure, especially in English. That's
it was really strange.
Yeah, that's not good.
Let's see here. What is your favorite persona?
Without a... Well... okay, all right. You talking about like my personas?
Yeah, your personas.
All right, before I get to that, definitively Makoto's. It's a freaking motorcycle.
It's really cool.
I mean, come on. All right, but anyway, moving on from that. Yeah, and just to be clear, I did play a good bit of this game on easy just because I wanted to get through it. I'm playing so many games.
Right.
It already took me so long, and I was going through a lot of it. So I probably didn't go as deep into like getting the best personas as a lot of other people do because I didn't necessarily have to a lot of times, and I was like switching out personas a lot of times. So it's hard for me to like pinpoint exact ones because I felt like I had an ever changing cast. I would like combine these two and get a new one, combine these two and get a new one. I feel like in the like early to mid portion of the game, for some reason, Lean On She or whatever.
Yeah, the little elf lady with the flower.
Like, stuck out to me a lot. I just like something about the way that Joker screams those names just feels iconic to me. Like when you switch through them, it's like Lean On She. Yeah, it goes out there. It's really cool.
But any ones that like you didn't want to fuse because like you like their abilities or like the design of them,
right? I mean, I liked everyone's design, and then usually whenever I got to a fusion, I was like, I thought that I was attached to this one, and I see that, and it's like, oh, that looks even cooler.
Even Incubus, with the big like strap on.
Yeah, that's. Oh, how about the chariot penis?
Oh, Mara, Mara's great.
The chariot penis thing. Every single time, like I was playing this in my parents' house. Every single time like that came up there, I was like, oh, let me kill this really, really fast before my parents come.
Well, they even kind of tease at the end of the first palace.
It's been so long.
At the end of Kamoshida's, you fight like the head of a penis.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Or that was I don't remember.
And On's like, oh, what the hell, man? Like, no.
Well, that came up there. I was like, is that a penis? Yes, that's a penis with a bunch of like
with a little nose,
things and a chariot.
And a mouth.
What the hell is this?
Persona was great.
The monsters are amazing, and I love that like in all the different like lovers and Star and all these, they have like a iconic kind of like vibe to all of them. Like all the personas you see in that like structure has a vibe.
And those designs date from like the 90s. They've been around forever.
I bet a lot of those are. I mean, what percentage of these were like new to Persona 5? Were a lot of these old?
There's a lot, so they don't put everyone in every game. So they cycle through them.
Okay. But there are some. Are there some new, or are they all just been around forever?
There's a lot, so I don't know.
Okay. I don't know. I'm really having trouble. For some reason, Lean On She was one that like really stuck out to me. I had Moloch was pretty cool. It was like this weird dude with like horns, and he did like a bunch of sidekick abilities that I liked a lot.
Oh, Moloch, yeah.
Moloch, yeah.
That's like the first thing you fight, I think, in the game.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't get him until late.
Yeah, in the little intro, I think.
You do. Yeah, you do.
You're running through the casino in the very, very beginning.
Right, yeah, because you play that again and going through there. So he was really cool.
I like Cuchulainn a lot. I think he's in the Star, but he is Cuchulainn's like an Irish folklore guy. Okay. But he looks like a elf warrior guy from like Lord of the Rings. He has like white armor and like long black hair and a spear.
Okay.
This is the design that like ever since Persona 3, I was like, I gotta make that one, gotta use it.
Yeah. I definitely I ended up like for some reason going towards psychic abilities a lot, like more than anything. Like I got someone that could do high brainwash to all enemies. It's like that felt
really good.
Pretty cool whenever you could get that to go off. And there was also somebody like late in there, I forget his name, but he like looks like this almost Power Ranger type thing with like wings and a helmet.
Melchizedek.
That sounds
Melchizedek,
something like that. And I would do the critical rate up and then do the like colossal damage thing.
Yeah,
and ended up just like
really
wiping people out. It felt great.
Totally.
So, sorry, I don't have like great answers. I had Narcissus for a while, which I thought was a girl, but it was a guy. It was like a guy covering himself, and he's like almost
he turns into
like
a flower.
Like
I like the Hellbiker a lot.
I never actually had the Hellbiker. I would see the Hellbiker in the thing, but he was always like a little bit worse than what I had.
Right.
Usually, like by the time I saw him, really, but
like freaking
Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider.
He's absolutely Ghost Rider.
And I don't know if he's in this game, but there is one called Jinn, like a genie, and he is straight up Genie from Aladdin.
Seriously, that's great.
I'm dead serious.
That's awesome. I had Thor too.
Thor's good.
Thor is pretty cool. I wanted the future. I wanted to get Queen Frost or whatever, but she was like always over level. You had Jack Frost and you
King
had
Frost.
Like, I never saw King. I only saw the Queen one, the like giant Queen one. I wanted that, but I wasn't level for it.
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
But I like the Fortune. It's like the Sisters of Fate. They're the Fortune ones.
Yeah,
they all like the black
I didn't
attire.
do much of their.
One cool little detail is that they have like the thread of fate, and if you put all three of them together, it connects. So like the artwork all connects.
So
to each
they're
other.
like they're different personas. Do you have to put together? Or
no, they're different. I mean, I think you fuse them together at some point to make something new. But as far as their design goes, they're holding a part of the thread, and the points of the thread connect to each other. The different ones. If that makes any sense.
Okay.
Fun little detail.
Okay.
Do you have like a general favorite arcana? I like the angel, the justice one a lot, because those are different levels of angels tied to, Christian tradition.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, it was. I definitely wasn't paying as much attention specifically to like what arcana was everything. Like I noticed vibes with all of them, and that mostly just came into play when I was fusing things. It was like, oh, this will become lovers. I maxed that out, so it's gonna get a crazy buff and everything. So I don't think I really know enough of the difference between all of them. I would have to probably look at my personas to see like these are the ones I like and this is what they were. I know like some of the ones I ended up using the most were from arcanas that I didn't level up at all, which I don't know if that's a bad thing to do. It just happened that way sometimes.
You just don't get the boost when you make them.
Right.
Some of them, like some of the arcanas,
I ended up with a bunch of lovers ones just because that was the first confidant I maxed out. So I was like, oh, I can level these up and get crazy buffs. Like I had Kushinada or whatever.
Yeah.
She was like, I had some personas like, you are my staff buffer person. I had Skaha. Whatever.
Yeah, I know.
She was my like, she had all of the increased attack for everyone, decreased attack or defense for everyone. Yeah, she had like all of those.
Good like buff and debuff one.
Right. So I kind of had it sectioned off as like, you're just used for that. And then like I tried to have like every element accounted for somewhere in my persona list.
It's probably a good strategy to have.
Yeah, just in case I didn't have, because like I said, I always kept I tended to lean towards the magic users. Like I honestly really only used Ryuji and Yusuke in like special circumstances, like every now and then if a character like I needed to that fit, because I also had the ability where you could switch them in and out.
Yeah.
I forget who you get that from.
Hifumi.
Okay.
Yeah. Also really good skill. Yeah.
That's what these confidant skills. It's like some of these I can't imagine playing the game without, but I'm sure other people did complete different ones and say the same thing.
Did I tell you what Kawakami's final ability is?
No.
So you can call her for a massage and you can go out after you go into the dungeon.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah. That's huge. That's huge. That would be a very good skill.
Yeah. But I am really partial to like the justice arcana because it's all those crazy looking angels. I like a lot of the strength ones because those are like warriors, and so you have like Siegfried and different guys like that.
Right.
You probably missed out on the gun skills, like the gun attacks.
Yeah, I barely used guns, to be honest.
All right, so the gun...
And I'm sure they get really good. But
they're very good.
I could identify that it's like, this is something that most people probably just don't know how to use, so they avoid, and then it ends up being really good. And I was definitely one that avoided it just because I didn't need it. But
yeah, like your high-level gun attacks have like crazy crit rates on them. So Haru is like a crit queen.
Yeah. See, whenever Haru got gun abilities, it was already so late in the game, and I was already like never using guns, so I just didn't accept those abilities because I just didn't use them. I that's something on the second playthrough I would probably try. To
definitely
do more of.
Definitely check that out. Yeah. Well, we kind of talked about like the weirdest personas. You have Belphegor, who's like the demon sitting on the toilet.
Oh, on the toilet. I had him for a while. I mostly just saw him as like, I have to have this. And then he ended up not being that useful, so I ended up like fusing him with something, but I enjoyed Belphegor.
What was your favorite job or like side activity?
I ended up doing the flower shop more than anything because I was so desperately trying to get my kindness up and failed. I'm still at level 3. I'm like maxed out in everything, and then like 3 in kindness. It sucks. But I don't really like batting.
Yeah, batting's not great.
It's not great. I definitely, from your recommendation, did the burger challenge, which I just think is funny.
Giant burger.
Like this big. And it like, yeah, your stats go it was so satisfying just seeing boom, 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 all the different stats.
There was a cool like little piece of like fan art where it was Joker eating like one of those giant burgers, and the next panel was him like throwing open the door to see EY, and he's huge because he ate like all those burgers. He's like, I'm ready to hang out.
The video games were not good.
Yeah, I didn't like those.
They were
either.
not good. The movies probably got the
fun.
most laughs out of me just because they were, cool. They were dumb, but they were
like
funny.
the Cake Night Rises.
The Cake Night Rises
is really great.
I wonder, are those like specific jokes for the localization, or were those jokes that were made? Like I have to imagine they're like specifically localized jokes. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I don't have too many. And like maybe you'll say something and it'll immediately make me remember. But I'm only thinking of the bad ones. I mean, it's mostly the confidants and the stuff that stands out the most. And there's other things you do like studying and everything, which is cool. Like to check out books and DVDs and all that. But it's obviously not like an activity.
Yeah. I liked making coffee. That was a lot of fun.
I didn't use that much either, but.
I think actually if you hang out with Sojiro, he gives you like little coffee trivia.
He does, and I got to the point like I never got to where I could make like the curry or anything too. But
yeah. Oh, the crossword puzzle. I like the crosswords.
I don't think I did that.
I think Sojiro gives you the answers to the crossword puzzles. That's just a fun little side.
Is it like
thing.
an actual? You're doing a crossword puzzle? Like the mechanics are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're small, obviously, but
yeah,
they're quite fun. And then, what was your favorite dungeon? I think we said the casino.
It's the casino, and I mean, part of it is I think "Whims of Fate" is my favorite song in this entire game. For some reason, that one just hooked onto me. It's like even though you hear that same song over and over again, that entire palace, I was still just like, give in to the fate. It was so good the whole time.
Any favorite songs?
"Whims of Fate." Tokyo Daylight is one of my favorites. It's simple. That's just
walking around.
Just the walking around. I just love it so much. It's so cool. River in the Desert is obviously just iconic. It's so damn good. I really like the final Mementos dungeon thing.
It's eerie.
It's eerie, but it's very. I like that. Like a lot of the soundtrack is similar in a good way. Like it's this like jazz fusion thing, and I like that it's that same singer the whole time. You feel like you're going on this journey with her, like she's going through this. But I do also like how it'll change a lot in certain times. Like you go into that church with Hifumi, and it's like
the organ.
It's an organ, like a church thing like that. Or the Mementos, where it's like, yeah, this doesn't sound like anything else we've heard. It's very, like that. Or you go into Shido, and it's this kind of like grand orchestra type thing that you would almost hear on the Titanic, like for it being a cruise ship. I mean, I think a lot of my answers are probably the obvious ones. The like Beneath the Mask, the Nighttime song is also just so good and iconic. And you hear these songs so much, and like a lot of JRPGs do the whole like repetitive like motifs and stuff. Like they'll like, you know, they really like to tie emotional things and repetitive things to musical notes. And sometimes that can get annoying, but I feel like it worked really well in Persona, where it was like it helped you get into the rhythm of the daily routine. You know, you're out in the sunlight in Shibuya going around. And it's
it's very upbeat,
right? And then you go at night with your night confidants. That I think a lot of them generally were kind of like darker, seedier people or something at night, and it's
more cool.
Yeah, and then it's this like very, you know. That song fits that environment very well. And I like how the confidants are I feel like the daytime confidants are very different than the nighttime confidants, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I also like the Layer Cake, which is the theme from the gun shop.
Oh, okay.
Where it's like kind of like weird and kind of electronic, and then like the beat just kicks in.
Yeah, every time that beat kicks in,
it's really funky. Yeah.
And Takemi's is really good in the clinic.
Yeah,
the clinic one
kind of switches to 6/8 halfway through.
Okay,
which is really nice little detail. And then I mean, Rivers in the Desert is a great track,
iconic, iconic, dude.
And I appreciate it where it's no vocals for like the first few phases, and then the vocals kick in on the final phase of the boss fight.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then like I like how it's her like almost rapping, but not really. But it's just kind of like the build up, and then the chorus comes in. And it's like this big thing. Yeah.
And I like the credit song as well.
Yeah. I'm trying to. I've heard these. Like I also listened to the soundtrack way too much while I was playing it, so I heard some of these songs early. But I would have to. I remember liking the credit song, but I have to hear it again.
It's really like soft and reflective.
Exactly okay. Yeah. I mean, we haven't talked much about the soundtrack, and like there's not too much more to say other than it's amazing. But it probably is my favorite part of this game, and it's like I do feel like if the soundtrack wasn't what it was, this game would suffer a lot. And it's not a knock against the game. It's like that's part of it. That's part of the atmosphere of this game is the soundtrack that had to have taken so long to make and so much thought was put into every little place you go.
Yeah, Shoji Meguro is the composer, and
it's phenomenal.
Such a good composer.
God,
for games.
It's phenomenal. Like I can't think of. It's probably like I'm partial to the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack because of nostalgia, but like this is probably the best soundtrack that I've heard in the game. I mean, like just the quality of the songs and the way they're used is just it can't be beat. It's so good.
Yeah, and like in every game also has its own style to it. Persona 3 has kind of a hip hop flavor to it. Persona 4 has an old school pop and rock sort of feeling to it, which fits with the very small old town. And then here you're in Tokyo, and it's acid jazz fusion, red colors everywhere. It just fits.
I love that color.
The look of it.
The red, black, and then the light blue every now and then is really cool.
Yeah. Any favorite moments besides like the big plot ones we talked about?
Small moment that I actually did want to mention. It seems very small, but it kind of hit me one of the hardest was whenever you finally leave, you leave on the last day, and you see Sujiro's like, all right, yeah, just get out of here, and you close the door, and then he like takes off his glass and wipes the tear. I'm like, oh my god,
like oh my heart.
That's why and I was immediately again regretting it. It's like, God, I wish I could have spent more time with him. But like his progression of like, he's an asshole at the beginning of the game.
Totally.
An absolute asshole. And to be 120 hours later for me, that was touching. That was one. I mean, there's so many moments like that. Yeah.
So it's hard to recall all of them.
Yeah. I think we've talked about a lot of them. I'm trying to think of specific ones. I mean, I liked even it's not probably don't think about it as much, but like the Madarame moment whenever you realize that what he did with him basically watching Yusuke's mother die. It was like that was another thing where
pretty
it was
messed up.
Yeah, that was I don't know, but I feel like there's a version of that for like every stage of the game. There was like definitely always like really cool moments. And then And I think all the like romantic moments I thought were really well done in this. Like I kind of didn't expect them to be as good as they were, but I was like, this conversation between them, like it's cheesy in a good way, but it's like I felt that it didn't it felt earned and everything. I mean, obviously all my own with on, but like they were on the Ferris wheel for one thing, and then like when they were in Hawaii, that was probably one of my favorite modes. I was like, I really didn't expect to be that touched by that conversation. Like I really feel like, especially for this husk of a protagonist, which we can get into that because I still stand by me hating silent protagonists, and that didn't change with this game. But the fact they made me feel those things even though I hate that.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that. If you want.
It's Persona 5 is especially a weird situation because it's like half a silent protagonist
and then half not,
half not, or like a quarter not, but like every now and then he will talk and everything. But it's just so weird to me because like your character's revered as this leader, this great leader for this group, and everyone thinks you're this great person who's helped them through so much and everything. But in the actual reality of you're watching their conversations, everyone else says like 5 pages of dialogue, and your guy's like, "Yep,
good job.
I don't know about that.
Good job, leader.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right." I hate it. It just seems very antiquated. I mean, it worked. I'm not saying it didn't work. It worked just fine. I didn't think about it. Like, it's not like I was constantly thinking about it, but I do think it would be better if they were just a character. Even if they wanted you to project yourself onto them, I feel like there's better ways to do it.
I would agree with that.
Because I feel like there's other games I've played, like Witcher 3, for example. I feel like I can shape Geralt in a lot of ways, but he's not silent. I mean, he has a personality and he says things and feels things and does all this, but I can kind of steer him in different directions, and I feel like that's better than it. Just kind of breaks for me when you're having these conversations and your person's just
silent the entire time.
And I don't really buy the like, this person's so great. It just seems kind of artificial at that point.
I mean, it kind of, in this game, it does make a little sense in the beginning when it's like, you're kind of wrongly framed for this thing, and you're kind of new in town and that all that angle, so it makes sense that he would be not so outward. But by the end, like, it's just strange. It was pretty much like Makoto and Futaba were like the main characters here. We're getting things done, or Morgana.
Yeah, it's weird. And I don't think it's gonna change.
Totally not.
Which kind of sucks. I mean, I don't feel like this wasn't as bad as this is far from the worst silent protagonist. Thing in the game. I've felt it way more, and I think one that me and Jeff talk about a lot is Tales of Xillia 2. Tales of Xillia does not have a silent protagonist, but Tales of Xillia 2 does.
That is a strange
introduce
move.
1 and 2, and it's like he has so many character moments and like very like deep stuff or whatever, but it just makes no sense that he doesn't say anything. It's weird. I don't like it.
And I like the different. You do have some choices over like what you say, and sometimes characters will react if you pick really weird things. But I feel like the vast majority of choices you make mean nothing. Which is, I mean, it's fine. It's flavor text, and I get that. But is there anything else you want to talk about?
Memento sucks.
Mementos does suck.
Memento sucks. It never got really better. I mean, it visually starts to look a little bit different, but every floor you go to is the same, just randomly generated thing. Though there's a few treasure chests, most of the enemies are pretty easy, and that same song plays the whole time. Probably one of the worst songs in the entire game. Mementos just never got better for me, and your characters say the same like 5 lines over and over and over again. It's just bad. It's bad. But it didn't like, it's not like it ruins the game or anything, but it didn't do anything for me until the end. I thought the end with Mementos was cool, but
I wish it was like an optional thing that like, hey, you want to go grind outside of the normal palaces? Here's your thing to go do that.
Right.
But instead it was you have to do it.
I'm interested. Like, I got to the end like pretty long before the end of the game when you have to go through the final door. What if you just ignored Mementos? Do you have to just go through like 50 levels before like?
I think so.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That must suck if you didn't.
Don't ignore it.
Like if you did, I did it incrementally, and I got there at the end like probably 20 days before I was supposed to. I just can't imagine. Like you must have to just if you just completely ignored it, it's like okay, time to go to the end of Mementos. It's like oh god.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because I think at that point that's when Caroline and Justine become Lavenza, and she will just refill your SP infinitely.
Yeah. God, that would suck.
Yeah.
To have to do it all in one go. Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's anything that actually forces you to go through Mementos until the end, right?
Not that
you don't really have to do the
of.
request, right? I mean, I did.
Yeah, you don't have
to do them. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of confidants, like to finish them, you have to go in there.
So.
But
I mean, yeah, chances are you would have ended up there anyway, like at least close to the bottom anyway. But
actually, no, I think Lavenza only comes around after Mementos and that final kind of run through.
Yeah, you're right. But they do refill they're still the twins, but they refill your stuff. Once you get to the point where you're locked into Mementos, you can get your HP and SP refilled, and you can leave to go to the airsoft shop or the clinic.
Right, okay.
You just can't leave to walk around and stuff. Right. But I was wondering about that because I was like, I think I'm locked in here. I didn't buy guns. It's like I haven't bought because like I would buy guns before each palace.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't buy them in between there because I'm like, what if I buy something and then there's something better right before the palace? So I waited and then I was locked into Mementos. So I was like, oh god, I hope I'm okay. But they let me go back out, so it was fine.
Which speaking of Caroline and Justine, in every Persona game on your second playthrough, you can fight the super boss, which is the Velvet Room attendants. So you can fight them. It is the coolest. It's hard, but it is the coolest fight ever.
So when does that happen? Is that a spoiler to
No, it's not a spoiler. It's just an optional thing. It happens at the when you go to Mementos for the final day. You can fight them there. And they can knock your party down and do an all-out attack on you.
Yikes.
Yeah, and it is the coolest. Like I think, yeah, like they do their whole animation, and then the text is like, "Don't be so cocky."
Nice.
And they just wreck you. And I think you had to beat it in 50 turns, or they just destroy you. It's a really fun fight.
Okay.
Definitely do that.
I mean, I'm definitely replaying this game at some point. It sounds like it will go a lot faster, probably. But
yeah totally. And then I'm gonna talk about real quick the final kind of cutscene. I like that one a lot, where you're leaving, and they're like, "No, you're coming with us. We're gonna go together."
Yeah,
I thought it was really great.
It was just like, I mean, I already knew it, but you watch that, and it's like, God, I care about these kids so much. It's like, like, you feel it was. I was glad that like this had a happy ending. I feel like this story needed to. I mean, I know I'm not always the biggest fan about happy endings. Cause like, I think a lot of times it's forced. I think a lot of times there's like stories that should have a more bittersweet conclusion that don't. But
that's what the other games do. So this was like, okay, finally a happy,
which
like
is probably more fitting
ending.
Because from what it sounds like, this game puts you through the ringer more than the other ones do in certain ways, or at least it sounds like this one deals with harsh subject matter at times, but the other ones probably do too.
3 is dark, and has a really. I was like borderline depressed when I beat 3. 4 has a really bittersweet ending because your character is moving back to where they came from, and everyone waves goodbye.
Yeah.
But yeah, 3 is really just.
Which I'm guessing that
empties you out.
That eventually is going to happen in this Persona 5 world. Like they're obviously going out and adventuring right now, but he's gonna leave and everything.
Yeah,
but
I just liked it. It was like, no, you're not leaving by yourself. Like we're all gonna go. Let's get in the car. Let's go.
It was awesome.
Really great.
It was so cool. It was just an awesome adventure.
Any hopes for Persona 5 R remix, whatever it could be?
Yeah, again, I don't really know much about what was even changed in Golden. I know there's like new confidant things, and there was even a new party member, didn't you say? In Persona 4 Golden?
Not a new party member, but 2 new confidants.
Okay. I mean, so you would know more about what to actually expect from like a revamped version of it. Because I was going to say, make Hifumi an actual party member, but I don't know how exactly that would work.
I mean, that could be possible because in Persona 4 Golden, they worked in a lot of scrapped ideas. Like in Persona 4, they add the scooter mechanic, which is unique to that game, was going to be in the original one, but then they cut it out and they reintroduced it. So I think they could definitely put Hifumi as a party member.
But it seems like you'd have to change so much.
You would.
All those animations and stuff, and just like the fact that there's another person there would just, I feel like, impact so much of the game.
Yeah. One thing would be, as I said before, Haru having more of a presence earlier on.
Yeah.
And then also, I'd like to have more to Akechi. I'd like to have him be maybe more of a real confidant.
Yeah.
And then maybe have a post Shido dungeon with him, perhaps, where you're kind of going into his palace or his mind or whatever.
So would you want to change? I mean, like, you'd have to change because he dies basically in Shido's palace.
Does he really die? This is a JRPG. If you don't see a character die on screen, they're not dead.
He didn't come back in the game, at least.
He's going to come back for the fighting game.
Was P4 Arena, like, there's actually a canon story to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think Akechi's dead. I super don't.
I mean, this is the same game that did that bullshit with Morgana, so
yeah.
I hope he's dead because I feel like it would mean a lot more.
I mean, I agree, but knowing that he will probably come back in some way.
That would cheapen things.
I would like for him to have more substance in the original game.
I don't want to like draw it on too much longer because we've gone for a long time, which this has been awesome, by the way. I've really enjoyed doing this. But what did you think about Akechi? Because I said that he was one of my favorite characters, and it seems like you were like, oh, really?
I like him. I like his deal. I like his relationship with the main character. I think he could have used a lot more work.
I feel like the end was kind of,
especially in the end,
like ramped up a little too fast at times, and like it got a little out there with his like crazy transformations and doing all this, and it was just like, I mean, like maybe that some of that wasn't earned as much. But like throughout the whole game, it's just like I inexplicably, like every time he was talking or something, I was just like, I just like this guy. He's just an interesting.
He's just an asshole, is what he is.
That's
what the A on his briefcase stands for.
He's absolutely, but it was just
not
like
catchy.
I couldn't figure him out. You know, it was just like he was obviously everything was a front and a fake, and you kind of see that front unravel as harshly as you can imagine, like during that whole fight. And everything, because like he becomes basically a completely different person, just like screaming, screeching, and doing all this other stuff. But I don't know, like I can't really explain it, but I enjoyed him.
But forget all that. The big thing that I would like to see in Persona 5R would be a female protagonist.
Yeah. You said they did that with P3, right?
Yeah, with the portable game.
Yeah. Which again, like that just seems like so much to change, but I guess there's a precedent for them doing that.
Yeah, that would just change so much.
Yeah,
I think it'd be really interesting.
I think one thing that is probably a common response that's probably not going to happen. We talked about this like a few weeks ago off camera, that just I think LGBTQ things just
should be there
or just period are not handled well in Persona 5 at all. Like, it's very rarely does any homosexual character come up, but then like on the beach when it's like one of the only ones I can remember are the two like
very camp characters.
Like very androgynous guys. They're basically just trying to sexually molest Ryuji, and it's supposed to be funny, and I'm like,
it's not funny.
It's not funny, and this is like the only even attempt to it was weird. And I do think it's like, I don't necessarily want it to be like you can romance every single male character, because like in the real world, everyone's not gay.
Yeah.
But it is a bit weird that it's like every single female character can fall in love with you. Like you were just so great. Every single female character can fall in love with you, but every male character you get to the end of the confidant and it's just over. It's done. It's like, it feels weird. It feels like a weird way of doing things. Like I even wish that some of the female confidants is like, no, they're not going to date you 16-year-old kid or 17-year-old, however old you're supposed to be.
It is really strange.
So maybe if they added in another confidant that was a homosexual relationship, that might be.
I think that'd be great.
That would be a cool, addition to it.
I agree.
And I would definitely play P5 Arena. I didn't play the Persona 4 fighting game at all.
Who would you want to be your character?
I
mean, obviously it boils down to the moveset, but
yeah,
who would you gravitate towards?
On would be up there because of the fire. I like fire. So I like the fire moves would be cool. Again, this is from not knowing anything about the Persona 4 fighting game, the mechanics of it, or anything at all. So I don't know how different the characters are, but I see Haru with the psychic stuff being like a tricky character.
Yeah, yeah, or the grenade launcher.
Oh yeah, that could be cool. That could be really cool. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd experiment around, but on with the whip and fire both sound good to me. It sounds very Zero Suit Samus.
Yeah,
I think like my Smash main.
Yeah, Makoto would be cool with the knuckle dusters and the revolver. Yeah, it'd be really fun.
Makoto has like one of the coolest designs of anyone. Yeah, with her like metal helmet and the spikes and everything.
Very Mad Max.
Yeah,
like, Road Warrior.
It's super cool. And I just like in her all-out attack, she just looks insane.
Yeah,
like her picture is just like ah. Yeah, it's cool. Do you think? They said Persona 5 projects. Is there any other predictions aside from a remix thing and a potential fighting game? They've already done dancing games.
Yeah, they got that one out.
Is there going to be a kart racer? Persona 5 kart
That'd
racer?
That'd be fun. Yeah. There's actually a free-to-play like Flash fan game, Persona 4 Racing All Afternoon. You can,
that is a great name.
you can download it. It's fun.
That's a great name.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd rather see like Persona 6 in the works than oodles and oodles of spin-offs.
Yeah, but they seem to like to do that.
They do.
Yeah. And if 5 is any indication, it seems like 6 will probably be a long ways out. Is there any story that like did 5 have a troubled like development or something that made it take so long, or was it just it just took that long? Because like 4 came out in the PS2. There just wasn't a Persona for the PS3.
I don't think they started working on Persona 5 until like 2013, 2014.
Yeah, they should get on that.
Yeah,
because I want more.
It's good. Yeah, I like to see. I'm excited for Persona 6.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on board now. I'm totally on board. So I'm gonna be like, yeah, what music is gonna like what musical style is
the color gonna be?
What's the color? Yeah. So they've done like yellow with a bunch of other random colors and 4. Wasn't that the general thing? It was like yellow was the main color, and then they also had like the weird streaks of like blue and green and
and red,
and that stuff. And then
3 is blue.
3 is blue, and then this is red and black. I mean, the red and black's pretty great. It's gonna be hard to beat, but
1 is technically purple and gray, and 2 is also red.
Let's go
green. Maybe?
Green, yeah. A stylish green. We have to do something with it.
Yeah. No, just puke green.
Puke green. Tennessee orange.
Yeah, and they're probably gonna go back to the high school setting, but I think it'd be interesting to see maybe like real like adult characters.
No, you have to fight the adults.
They did it in Persona 2. Like they can do it again.
Adults, okay.
In the second game, they're all like
they grow up.
No, it's actually different characters.
Oh wait, you told me that. Yeah. I think you told me that. Yeah.
Like in Persona 2, just really quickly, like your main character, he has a brother, and then that brother becomes a party member in the next game.
Okay, there you go. That's cool. Yeah, dude. I mean, this game took me way more than I thought it would. Like, it just was. I'm so into. I really want to go back and play Persona 4 now. Like, I don't know how much it's gonna hold up, and I don't know how hard it's gonna be to go back to, but I definitely am interested in trying it just to kind of see the roots.
Yeah, it will be hard to go back, but they're in the story. The characters definitely still hold up. Definitely worth checking out.
I think that's the most important part. I mean, there's so much of this was good. Like the combat and everything was great in this, and that definitely helps a lot. But the things that I'm going to remember the most are the crazy moments of that story, and just how much you feel like you know those characters.
Right, and going back, you will also see that these games have their structure. That the kind of you're gonna go dungeon. There's gonna be a
that is one of the things I've seen people complain the most about Persona 5. Did that bother you? The fact that this is your like third go through, or fourth or fifth, I guess, if you can include the 2 Persona. Does it bother you that it's so formulaic?
A little bit, yeah. Like I said, like I would have preferred it if Shido was somehow the final boss. Right. I don't mind the day-to-day structure of it, but it was a little tired when I played it.
Yeah. in a lot of ways, it seems from the outside looking in like Persona 5 is just like the most polished version of the same game, of like the same structure of game. It's just, quality of life stuff.
Yeah.
Polished a lot better.
So I hope for Persona 6. It will be a new director. So
has it been the same director for 3, 4, and 5?
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully this new director will throw in his known take on it, because that's what the guy for 3, 4, and 5 did when he started with 3.
Yeah. So. Do we know who the director is?
For the new one?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
We just know it won't be him. There you go. Cool.
But yeah, Persona's great.
Persona is great. I mean, if the last 2 hours and whatever the hell told you anything.
Yeah, it was really long.
This Persona is great.
Just almost as long as
the
game.
So the game's okay, right?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah. All right. If you don't have anything else,
I think that's all.
I think we can wrap it.
I think we covered just about damn near everything.
That was awesome. I knew it was going to be long, and I'm happy it was, because it was awesome to be able to talk through all of this. I'm like, we've vaguely talked about things that I've had to thinly veil.
Right. And I've had to withhold information, too.
Yeah, it's awesome to just go through it. Now we have to make Jeff play this damn game. I can't believe that I beat it before he did. He was like...
That is pretty crazy.
He was in Futaba's palace back in 2017, and I was halfway through Madarame's palace, and then I went through and called it. I mean, Jeff's the type of person that will beat it in 3 days if he starts playing it.
We'll give him some power and some motivation.
All right, we'll have to think of something. Well, let's change his heart.
There you go. There we go.
Let's go. All right. Thank you guys so much. I hope there's some people that stayed through the 2.5 hours, but...
Or you can listen to this for like the next 2 weeks while you drive to work.
Yeah, do it however you want. We're already 2 years later in this game. Doing this Spoilercast, so whatever. All right. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.